This is the X&C Podcast, your Xbox newscast, featuring Colteastwood and Mag, hosting industry interviews and gaming talk live on YouTube every Monday night at 5 p.m. on the West Coast, 8 p.m. on the East Coast. For all of you listening around the world, X&C Podcast is available on demand on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts. Welcome to the show. Join the chat, hit the like button, and let's get into this week's topics with the Xbox Newscast. Welcome, everybody, to the XC Podcast. What a great day. A lot of news has been swirling. This is episode 186. I'm the host, Colteastwood, and over here is middle-aged game guy. We're in the green Xbox gear again.
Well, I was working out, man. It's part of my workout uniform, and I didn't bother getting changed after. So I take the 2 hours to cool down, only to get reworked up and start sweating again while doing the show, sweating under the lights like I'm in the detective station. But anyways, we are here. We got things to talk about. We have an incredible guest with us this evening. And hey, man, let's just get right into this, man. Don't listen to me. Let's talk to him.
Yeah, let's welcome Paris from Gamertag Radio. Kind of funny. I don't know which one is the most important, because you've been doing this stuff a long time, but we're glad to have you here. You've been on the show before, and we thought we'd bring you in and just talk about, hey, what's going on? Is everyone doomed for all eternity when it comes to the games industry? And we'll talk about some of the other news. How you been, Paris?
I'm good. I'm still recovering from being sick. I had a really bad sinus infection, so if I look a little weird on camera, that's why. But I'm getting better, feeling okay now, and no, it's good to be on. I'm glad you invited me to come back on again. I lurk in the chat often, so you know I keep up with the show. Both of you do a fantastic job. And to answer your one question, Gamertag Radio and Kind of Funny, I treat them equally. It is crazy to think I've actually been a part of Kind of Funny now. I mean, we're like going on year 5. Like time just flies when it comes to that stuff. But yeah, I love being a part of both of those, and it's been a great journey. Been a lot of fun.
Yeah, in my world, it seems like they asked you to join that a couple years ago, but then that was like right before COVID or something, and then it's all been a blur.
Right.
But you've been doing a ton of stuff. Yeah. Tell us, just about a week or so ago, you interviewed Phil, and like I know you weren't nervous, but you did a pretty good job there of handling the questions. There was one moment I shared with the audience last week where you said, if I don't ask this, they're going to kill me. And I laughed out loud while I was watching the interview on my phone. They're going to kill me. How was it doing the interview with Phil? You've talked to him before.
No, it was fun. I mean, that was my 4th official time talking to Phil Spencer in an interview. And to the point that you're making about the they'll kill me if I don't ask, it's because, I pay attention to what the community's talking about. I watch different podcasts and things, and I see what people are concerned about. So that's why that one question that led into the hardware answer from him, that's why I led him that way, because I knew that was something that people wanted to know about. And I thought he answered it pretty definitively about we're not putting walls around any of our games anymore, which then I'm like, well, then, hey, why are you, if I go play these games somewhere else, why am I buying an Xbox? And he obviously gave his answer, from that. But, it's limited time. It was 2 of us along with Danny. So there's only so many questions you can ask. And that I thought Destin did a fantastic job with his interview, because he was really able to kind of dive into the weeds more on some of his questions and stuff. But I think between both of them, we kind of know where Xbox is headed. And now people can make an informed decision on what they're going to do moving forward.
Yeah, Mag, we're going into uncharted territory right now when we see all these changes, right?
Well, not to us. I mean, I think for the gaming community, absolutely. But I mean, I can tell you one thing. At least Phil talks to Paris. He refuses to talk to me, because I know as a fact, and I can tell you this, you guys want to get a laugh. I know as a fact that he's going around trying to figure out who the hell I'm talking to, because I find out stuff like a year before everybody else, and that's boardroom level stuff, right? So he's probably sitting there going, that goddamn Mag, which one of you is it? As he sits there sipping on his paper straw in the middle of the boardroom, looking left, right, trying to figure out who it is. But anyways, in all seriousness, it's uncharted territory, because for a lot of gamers in this day and age, it hasn't happened before. It has happened in a different way. Now, like if you look back at the Sega days, when it went back from the Sega, and then what they ended up doing is going third party, and then eventually getting rid of hardware entirely, and then going to software only. This is not going to be the same route. The reason why is because you've got Microsoft is such a big company, and of course, yes, they have an ecosystem that's been running for almost 2.5 decades now. The point is that they will continue because they have a rich history, and they have a lot of people that have, like we talked about before. They have a a digital library. And they're going to carry that over, and there's always going to be access. And their point is that not only just to move to third party, so that they can get more sales on PlayStation and the Switch too, of course you got the PC ecosystem as well. The point is that they also want accessibility. We've talked about that a million times before, and they want you to be able to access it anywhere. So if you're not on any of those systems and you don't want to pay whatever, they want you to be able to turn on every device. I mean, ad nauseum, every single device that you have, that you can access their product. What they want, number one, is engagement. All right, that is their number one thing, engagement, and they want to continue to keep that. And as a result, I think a lot of people don't understand that that's you know what I mean? Like there's such a dogma about this industry, because this industry is only 50 years old, essentially, right?
Yeah,
barely,
pretty much.
Let's say like 40 something years old, and so because of that, we haven't seen too many trends, right? It's always been a very traditional method, and it goes along. And the thing is, you look at the actual cultural difference, as we talked about it before, Colt, on the show in Paris, I'm telling you now, is that we've talked about the cultural differences that, like, for example, the Japanese companies stay very traditional. They have a very proud tradition, the way they run their business, and they're not really astute to much change unless they really have to. Because if they have a tried and true formula, like, well, let's not mess with it. Let's continue to improve what we're already doing. And then Microsoft just went off road and just said, nope, we're going to go do this and that and the other, because they started looking at Netflix, they started looking at Amazon Prime. I think that Netflix is not the comparison that we should be doing here, and I've talked about it before on this show and on my channel. We talk about Amazon Prime is actually the real model, and the reason why, and I'll be very brief here, is that for anybody who doesn't know, is that the model has always been, for example, Game Pass is not the focus. Game Pass is just something to keep the people that are already there. And then once in there, it gets you into the store, just like Amazon Prime. I watched Landman on Amazon Prime or whatever, but that's not what they created it for. They created it for that. So the next time I get a hole in my sock, I go to Amazon to go buy a new pair of socks. Right? So the next time I'm in Game Pass, or Paris is in Game Pass, or you're in Game Pass, or anybody in this chat is in Game Pass, and all of a sudden you want to buy a skin, you're going to be buying it in the Xbox store because you're already there. That is what they're trying to do. They're trying to drive you to that store, and that continues their engagement in that way. Now, for everybody who doesn't want to go to the party, they bring the party to you. You're just going to have to pay more for it.
But man,
right?
you dove right into it, like right
sorry. I was just trying to explain the uncharted waters and where it's going, and that's literally it. There's no mystery to it. It's not complicated. It may there's a lot of people that are having trouble accepting it, but it really is just, that's it.
Yeah.
That is it. There's no mystery to this. They just want you engaged in their ecosystem and the store, number one. That's the number one focus.
Yeah, and I've kind of gathered a lot of I was talking to Paris earlier. I gathered a lot of, like, what I think are the frequently asked questions about the uncharted waters of where Xbox is going, because it's industry changing. Before we get into that, I wanted to kind of, like, I was going to break the ice about what we're doing and kind of talk about what we're playing. And then as I'm thinking about it, like, I'm going to ask Paris, but yeah, I guess it's pretty obvious. But what have you been doing, Paris? What have you been playing? What's been keeping your gaming life busy?
I mean, obviously everybody knows we're reviewing Avowed, so that just goes without saying, and we'll talk about that on February 13th at 6 a.m. Pacific, I believe. Yeah. But I've been playing Nine Souls, man, and oh my God, it has just been kicking my butt, and I love it. And I didn't even know what Nine Souls was until Kind of Funny did their Game of the Year episode, and it wound up being in the top 10. And I was like, oh, wait, let me go check this out. And then it's on Game Pass. Even better. Let me go download it, play it, and I've been having a blast with that. I love that there is challenge there, and I'm trying to learn all the parries and moves and everything, and dealing with some of these mini bosses and bosses. Somewhat. Yeah. It's not overly difficult, but it's difficult enough that you're not going to just walk through it. And again, great indie game. Highly recommend people go check that out. I'm completely addicted to Balatro, so I play that all the time. Yeah. God, what else have I been playing that I can talk about?
South of
I think
Midnight.
that's it. Well, yeah. I haven't technically. I have not started playing it yet, but yeah, we're previewing South of Midnight.
Okay.
But I did see it, when I went to Compulsion back in November, so I already know what to expect with that. I think people are going to be pleasantly surprised, and obviously we'll be able to talk about what we get hands on with the preview. When is that? The 11th.
Yeah.
Of
it's
this
crazy,
month as well.
It's a crazy month.
Yeah. So busy times with all the stuff that's going on.
Mine's mostly the same. Avowed, because I'm doing the review, and I just got hands on with South of Midnight today. So, yeah, we'll talk about that, and then that's all I can think of right now, because that's going to be my main focus. Mag, what have you been playing? What's been on your plate?
Dove deep in this week. Well, last week when I was streaming with my wife, we were playing Space Marine 2, which we hadn't gone to yet, which we're doing now. And then now I'm neck deep. I'm about 8 hours or so into Final Fantasy 16. So I'm getting into that. My God, with some of these Japanese developers and their exposition. Holy crap, I put the controller down for an hour, and I'm still sitting there. I'm like, am I watching a show, or are we playing a game here, folks? That's the only thing. I got to tell you, Capcom has got the formula, though. See, Capcom is the kind of company that can actually make a game, you're playing the game, and tell the story while you're playing it. So you don't have to put the controller down for an hour with your arms crossed like this and just staring at the screen for an hour. Like Death Stranding 2, forget about it. Like, I might as well just take a nap in between levels. But anyways, I've been playing those two games. I've been enjoying it. Spoke to a couple people who finished. We talked about it last week about South of Midnight and about the length of the game and everything else. And then we're keeping kind of quiet about it. But it's been pretty wild. And something we talked about in the green room, folks, is that it does show a level of confidence that they're not only giving people the games early, but it's also that they're able to speak about it so early. Avowed, but within the month, of course. But then, like even South of Midnight, almost 2 months before the game even releases. That is big. That means that they are really confident in the product, and that, for me as a consumer, makes me happy. That you know what I mean? That gives me confidence that I'm saying, hey, this is a great product. Because, you don't want to have one of those moments where all of a sudden you're like, oh, yeah, the review comes out, the day after it comes out or whatever. You know what I mean?
Lately it's been pretty dicey, hasn't it? Games
and
supposed to be amazing, fell real short.
Yeah, and I'm happy to hear that. I'm happy to hear that that's what's going on. And like I said, Phil will never send me a review code because he's still trying to figure out who I'm talking to. But it's okay. You're never going to find out, Phil. You're never going to find out.
When you said a year, when you find out stuff a year before, I'm like, okay, embellishing that a little bit much, but we do hear things from time to time, and we always preface it, Paris, with like, where there's smoke, there's fire. So I think there might be a little bit of truth in some of the things we hear sometimes. You just kind of have to figure out how to gauge that properly. And Holly, that blue number, leaves a chat here, member chat, and to pointing towards Paris. It says, Paris, have you heard that Doom: The Dark Ages is coming May 15th, and I'm looking forward to it?
Yeah, I was giving her grief online earlier because she was talking about how obnoxious she's going to be talking about Doom, the Dark Ages over the next few months till it comes out. And then I replied, I go, Holly plus Doom equal muted words. And then she was like, I'm going to tag you on everything that I post from now on. But no, I as far as that game goes, I'm very excited for that to come out. That preview really got me pumped for it, seeing that the dev direct. And I mean, again, it's Doom. You know it's going to be good. So
I know. Are you okay with boots on the ground?
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, it looks awesome. We got a super.
Can I say one thing? Yeah. Read the super, sorry, and then I'll say what I was going to say.
Well, if it's on Doom, you might as well say it now because we're
no. This was kind of alluding to what Mag was just talking about, but I can wait till after super.
Okay, well, if you can remember, because I never put it past myself. Phase 23, Brooklyn, New York. Thank you so much for the super chat. He's been a good guy. Thank you so much for a $50 super. Says, why do some people keep thinking that Sony is in the same boat as Xbox, as they're going to follow what Xbox is doing? I don't agree. PlayStation, Xbox is not in the same position, especially when it comes to Sony having the bigger install base. And Face is correct.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah,
it doesn't matter.
Same position.
Can I answer this one?
Absolutely.
They are in the same boat. Here's why. There are how many PlayStation 5s in the world right now? 65 million?
Close to 70, yeah.
70?
Sure.
How many copies of Returnal sold? How many copies of Astrobot sold?
1.5
How many copies of Ratchet and Clank sold? The problem is, sure, there's a lot of pieces of hardware out there, but they're not buying those first-person single-player experiences.
Why?
And if you want to bring in Horizon Forbidden West or say God of War, they're also on the PS4, and the majority of them sold on the PS4.
Okay.
That's why we're reaching a point where, and you know, Phil will never get credit for this, even though he's been saying it till he's blue in the face. I'm sure Mag's spies internally will probably agree with this. No, but he said many times, look, the console market's not growing, right?
Yeah.
And COVID obviously gave a false sense of growth. And now we're in the mess that we're in now with all these layoffs and everything. So these companies have to continue to make money. So you start to have to look for other avenues to do it. Now, does PlayStation have the war chest and the resources that a Microsoft has to do this aggressive thing that they've obviously started to do? No, they don't. They obviously still lean on, hey, we're trying to sell hardware, of course. But what else are they doing? They are now putting games on PC. And you notice the time between console release and PC release keeps shrinking. Sure, Spider-Man 2 was a disaster technically, but that is an exception with Nixxes. Nixxes is usually fantastic with their PC ports.
They were batting 1,000 up until this one.
Yeah, right,
sure.
Right. And I know because I talked about it, and the usual suspects tried to use that as a gotcha moment, but it's like whatever.
Right.
But the point I'm making on that is, as Sony gets more studio resources to be able to manage that and do a day and date PC release, they're going to start doing that. I am not at any point saying that PlayStation games will be on Xbox. No. I'm not going to say that. If it ever happens, it'll be a long time from now. But they're going to put their games on more devices than just a PlayStation. Of course they are, because they're trying to it's exactly what Xbox is doing. What is Phil saying? They're way more aggressive, but they're basically saying, and you said it a second ago, if you don't want to play on our hardware, we'll bring the party to you where you want to do it, because it's about bringing the games to more people. And is it different? Is it weird? Are we not used to it? Of course. But Mag said it perfectly. This industry is only about 40 to 50 years old. So anything that seems unprecedented is still in a short period of time. So who knows what could happen in the next 10, 15 years. So to answer that question, yes, PlayStation is doing exactly what Xbox is doing, but they're doing it at a slower pace. That is the only difference.
Yeah, and I remind people that PlayStation bringing games to Xbox is not something they're going to do anytime in the future. I had a very interesting discussion with a really prominent podcaster about this today that said, I can see down the road PlayStation putting their games on Xbox because it wouldn't hurt them at all. And I'm like, but there's no reason. PlayStation's business model since the 1995 has been suffocate the competition, stand on the top of the corpses, and they've done so well. Let me read this quote from Jason Schreier that came out today on his Blue Sky account that says, really supports what Paris said. He said, Steam is the bright spot for game developers right now because console sales have flattened. That's number one. I'll interrupt that and say, console sales have flattened, but they're still on an upward trajectory for PlayStation and Nintendo. Number two, he says, Jason Schreier says, console exclusives will become obsolete soon, especially for third-party publishers. So does that support what you were saying, Paris, or is there... I
think so. Like, yeah, I mean, again, the fact that Jason said, people will actually believe him. I say it, they say I'm console warring or some nonsense like that. But he's people way smarter than me and way more connected, Mag, have been telling you this. It's like, when are people just going to start accepting this is what is happening? And ultimately, it's not hurting you if a game shows up somewhere else. If you decide you want that piece of hardware, then play your games on that hardware. At the end of the day, and I know you're going to get into all this, but I'll just say this. Yeah. The amount of outrage that I've seen about Forza Horizon 5 on PlayStation ultimately boils down to, I don't want you to play the game that I get to play. Insanity to me. That's ultimately what it all boils down to.
That's our game. Like that sort of thing.
Yeah.
That's our game.
I think there's also a naivety to a lot of people's thoughts when it comes to this, that everybody thinks that when they buy a console, it's like the first console they've ever bought. They have no friends. They have nothing else, whatever. People have to also realize that there's a legacy to a lot of it where that people have carryover of friends and, of course, their digital libraries. You know what? The digital library thing, I don't think is as big a deal as people think it is, because I could tell you this. When I get 1,000 out of 1,000 achievements on a game or a platinum, guess how many times I play it again?
Oh, yeah, I'm sure you're
Zero.
spent.
I'm done. And so therefore I have these huge libraries on both consoles that I don't touch anymore. They're just there. They're just tiles to look at. You know what I mean? It's like you go to the Sistine Chapel, you look at it, you're like, all right, that's nice, and then you leave, and then that's it. They're just tiles. So that's all it ends up. But the thing is, there is a legacy to it. Like I said, your friends, the comfort factor, your recognizability, if that's even a crazy word. It just, you know what I mean?
Even
it's
gathering trophies or achievements is important to people.
Right. That's another thing too, like the familiarity of the ecosystem as well. So no matter where you put what and where, people will not just toss their Xbox out the window to go buy, this, or they're not going to toss their PS5 out the window to go buy an Xbox. They're going to stay where they are. And like I said, they're bringing the party, well, at least from Microsoft's point of view, they're bringing the party to you. Right, so that you have the ability to do so. I have whatever, I don't know, about 1,000 plus people on the PlayStation, but I've got like 7,000, 8,000 people on Xbox, right?
Yeah.
And so I will always be in both of those ecosystems because I have a lot of friends there. When Call of Duty comes out, I play it on Xbox generally because that's where all the big parties are at, right? That's where all the YouTubers I talk to and everybody else and all the other big guns. And then on the other side of the fence, we got Mikey Barras playing Helldivers 2 with him and this and that. That's on the PlayStation side because he plays a lot on PlayStation now. So you got to keep them both active just for that. But like I'm saying, like we look at it just so very, not we, but a lot of people look at it so very narrow, thinking that, this is going to sway this decision or that decision depending on the availability of these games. That's not entirely true.
Yeah, I'm with you on that, and you just reminded me of a common thing that I've seen a lot, especially in more recent times, is we're fortunate enough that we have multiple consoles, devices, PCs, all that. So ultimately, it doesn't matter wherever the games are, just go play them. And a common critique I get at myself is that I don't care because of that fact. Oh. It's not true. I do care, but part of my thing is this. Now, to be clear, I do think Microsoft at the start of this gen sold us on exclusivity and they just switched it up mid-gen. That is something that they should be critiqued for, and that's not fair. That's where my infamous pitchforks comment come from, because I get that. But at the same time, you chose one console. Like, for people that can only afford one console is the point I'm making here. You chose an Xbox because you wanted to play Xbox games. You made the decision that Xbox games matter more to me than PlayStation games or Switch games, right? So you made that choice at the start of this gen. Now, going into the next one, there'll obviously be a different discussion. Maybe if you do want to play some PlayStation games or Switch games, maybe you don't buy an Xbox because now you can play those Xbox games on that device. But to what Mag is saying, ultimately, you're going to play where your friends are, where you're the most comfortable and what is the most convenient. I understand that people are upset about this mid-gen change in strategy and all of a sudden telling you exclusives don't matter. But ultimately, you cared about the games that Xbox is making at the start of this gen, or you never would have bought an Xbox in the first place. Ooh, and I'm not trying to say that to disparage anyone or whatever. I understand that people are upset by it. But this is happening at this point. So you have the Xbox already. You know the games that are coming. You're still going to get to play those games. And ultimately, if there was a PlayStation game that you felt that if you wanted to play, you would have bought a PlayStation. Or if you can't afford it, you made the decision that PlayStation game doesn't matter enough to me over what I get from Xbox, be it the games, be it Game Pass, Quick Resume, or whatever the hell, that Xbox is providing that you chose back in 2020 to go with Xbox. That's just how I see it. That is just I just think that's the most reasonable way to look at it at this point. And then at the end of this generation, now maybe you don't get an Xbox, maybe you do get a PlayStation or whatever, because you don't have to get one if it really comes down to that.
That's interesting because I see while Paris is talking, I'm reading the chat on the other screen, and I'm reading what a lot of people are saying. They're like, well, why even bother buying one the next gen when I can get both on one? You're absolutely right too. If you wish to do so, the point is it's options and it's you know what I mean, and it's an accessibility. The only thing is that you might have to be a little bit more piecemeal. Let's say if you buy a PlayStation 6, okay, and you only buy a PlayStation 6, absolutely you'll be able to play PlayStation games, third-party games, Xbox games. However, you will not have the feature of Game Pass, which is fine as well. If that's not what you're into, that no problem. And if you want to buy, let's say, I don't know, 2-3 games a year from Xbox, then you're fine. You could do that as well. The options are there. I was having a talk with somebody earlier today about it, funny enough, saying that if I decide, because I game share with my wife with the PlayStation, not on Xbox, right? Xbox I do solo, and I'm like, does PlayStation become the new PC? Like, what's the difference when people abandoned an Xbox console to go to PC and they're playing Xbox games and PlayStation games and third-party games on the PC? Yeah. What's the difference? So if I look at that, if I look at that PlayStation 5 Pro that I got here, right? Is that now my version of a PC? So, like, my question is, are people still angry if I buy Doom, let's say?
Meaning that PS5 is the place that gets most of the games. So that's like your multi-platform.
Right. It's like that's what I'm saying. PC. So, like, for example, like, are people still going to be pissed, upset with me because I buy Doom on PlayStation because my wife wants to play it? Or, like, what's the difference between that and Colt Eastwood playing Avowed on his PC instead of an Xbox?
Oh, am I doing that?
Are you doing that? You know what I'm saying? And that's what I'm saying.
I had one friend that was pretty mad about that.
It's a question. It's just a question I'm asking because, that's going to be a conversation also moving forward where it's going to get very interesting because the dynamics of what's happening in this business is changing literally before our eyes.
Yeah.
And it's pretty wild, man, because, I mean, us graybeards, Paris doesn't have anything. He's a clean
it's because I shaved. By the way, that's the only reason.
By the way, can I point out, like 4 people in the chat called him beautiful. I don't know if you can call men beautiful. I say handsome. I think ruggedly handsome is a good word.
There is a tier above handsome that goes to beautiful.
I'm just an old man with a droopy eye because I've been sick, so I don't know about all that.
Wait a minute. He's sick and he still gets this praise? Come on now. This isn't fair.
Yeah, I've literally seen it like a bunch of times. I look at the chat and I'm like,
there's
Paris. There's Paris, a beautiful man. And then I see another one. Oh, there's beautiful Paris. I'm like, beautiful? Can't we just call him handsome with a nice voice? Nice deep voice.
Should we turn his camera off, Meg? Because I'm feeling threatened.
I'll turn it off. No.
Face 23.
Achievement unlocked.
Yeah. Face 23 has another one, a $20 super chat. Thank you so much. He sent this a little bit ago, but he said Sony makes most of their money from the PSN store, not from their exclusives. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes, that's what did I just say to open the show?
Yeah, you did.
Where are they driving all of us to the store? Amazon, Facebook, or Meta, whatever you want to call them, Microsoft, Sony, Nintendo, not so much because they don't treat their console in the same way. They treat their console like a toy product. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I mean that's exactly how they treat it. They treat it more like a toy product. But they're gearing you all towards that store. Oh, Paris is shaking his head. He doesn't agree.
No, I'm sorry. I'm looking at the chat, and I'm just looking at a troll in the chat, so I was shaking my head, so I'm sorry.
We have trolls in our chat?
Yeah. We've never seen that, Magnum.
Yeah.
Risk it for the biscuit.
I forgot to...
2 people called me beautiful. And
that's
Pico
nice.
Trek called me delicious. That's a little far.
Yeah, I've reached the point in my life where I'm trying to put moisturizer on my face so I can look less like a catcher's mitt, but I'm working on it.
Man.
Magnum,
knock it off.
Before we dive into the show, I want to announce we got a couple of winners from last week.
Yeah.
We gave out 3 Indiana Jones coins from Xbox Fan Art. Paris, I'm sure you're probably getting these coins. They're freaking awesome.
You know what? Ben cut me off. I'm not getting nothing. I have a ton of them, but I haven't in a little bit though. He's awesome.
Yeah, he's working on this Avowed one that I can't wait to get, and then I'm getting behind the scenes look at the Doom Dark Ages coin. I won't talk about it because that's his reveal, but it's something else. So I have contacted you. I think you have put those in, but thank you everybody who's won an Indiana Jones coin, and big thanks to 4XP who is sponsoring tonight's podcast. Today, I'm drinking some Ultra Nightmare, and we're talking about, you got to check them out. We have a promo code, XNC 2025, which will get you 20% off. Meg, you have some particulars. We're doing something a little bit different today. What's going on? And we'll get back to the news.
Well, I got to tell you something. When we're talking about first party, third party, and everything else, I can tell you one thing, ladies and gentlemen, at 4xpgaming.com, they are third party all the way. They are for PlayStation players. They're for Xbox players. They're for Nintendo players. They are for PC players. And they are for players on the street as well. Listen, everybody, you got to get in that 4XP. And you know what? They got something very interesting going on. If you're on the fence and you're not entirely sure as to where you're going to go with this, or say, should I buy it? Should I buy a tub? Am I not sure? They have a try before you buy now, ladies and gentlemen. That's right. They have one you can just try before you buy. So if you want, you can get in there. You can get in the thing. You can sign up on the website. And what they do is that they send you a sample product so they can, you can give it a try. Say, hey, maybe I'm going to try this Ultra Nightmare. Maybe I'm going to try this White Gummy. Maybe I'm going to try this watermelon flavor. Maybe I'm going to do all these wonderful things and give it a shot and say, hey, you know what? I really like this one. Let's go get a tub of that. And then it's the equivalent of, what was it, like $21.99? You can get it for free, ladies and gentlemen. You just got to pay your shipping and handling. Colt, give them the details, my friend. 4xpgaming.com.
Yeah, it's in the description. Hit the link and go check it out. We appreciate them for sponsoring tonight's show.
Absolutely.
And you need your energy. You totally need your energy when you've been talking for a year about Xbox going multi-platform. And like I said, I've got a bunch of questions that I'm going to ask Paris. So Mag and I can discuss this with him and with all of you, because I know a lot of questions are coming out in the chat, right? About like, well, what about this? What about the console? What about the future? We're going to dive into that. I think I've got some of the, it's been like PlayStation's had their own issues. The industry wide has had a really hard time, as Paris said, coming out of like the COVID era and like trying to thrive with their studios, and the viability of $200 million games is really difficult right now. So you've seen PlayStation kind of change their leadership a little bit. Herman Holtz is now reporting to a new what's his name? Hideki Nishino? Something like that. Yeah. Really close. But yeah, everybody's kind of moving and shifting, trying to get into this. And I'm going to ask you guys some questions about that will liven up a pretty good discussion of where Xbox is going. Because the reason why we're doing the show tonight is because we like talking about gaming, but also because I see a lot of people overarching or overreaching or overreacting about the changes, because Paris said it really well, that this is all we've known. And the three of us grew up in an era when there was a gray console and there was a black one, and the cartridges didn't fit interchangeably. And it's taken our cartridges in our brain that long to kind of flip on that. Let me grab these couple supers really quick. Purple Haze with a $5 super. Thank you so much, Purple. Says, can we now say the next Xbox will have Steam and Epic stores on there? And could PlayStation block that? We're gonna talk about that, so we'll answer that one when we get to the question. That's a really good question. KY Bob, thank you so much for being a channel member for 63 months. He's my longest time veteran. He says 63 months, boom, Game Pass is still the deciding factor for me on choosing a platform. PC and Xbox will have it, the others won't, and games are expensive. Absolutely, KY Bob. KY Bob's awesome. DM me, bro. I got to see how you and your family are doing. I haven't talked to you in a minute. RDX Son of Fett, thank you so much for the $14 Canadian. Said, so tired of Microsoft greed. That's why they're going third party, and it's on full display when the head of Microsoft donates millions of dollars to a political thing. Yeah, I don't know. We don't talk about that here, but Microsoft does what Microsoft does. I'm interested in what they're doing with the gaming division. Thank you for the super chat, RDX Son of Fett. One more. Danny Passion, thank you for the 2. Says, dear Mag, you compare PS5 excuse me, with a PC. I was laughing.
That was philosophically. I wasn't talking about literally. I was just saying the concept of it, not that a PlayStation is a PC. I'm just saying, like, from that level, I'm like, if I'm playing third party on there, what's the difference between that and playing on a PC third party? You're not playing on an Xbox. Yeah. You're consuming the product on another product.
I got what you were saying. Like, that could be your one place. Like, PC is the place to play most everything, and Nintendo Switch 2 might be the place to play most everything.
Right.
It's gonna be a cool future. Let's get into some of the questions. I'm going to start by talking about the Game Pass situation. Game Pass is having very slow growth, Paris, 2%, and they've just started releasing the bangers. What do you see in the current Game Pass situation and moving forward in the future?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty clear to me Game Pass is no longer the primary driver for Xbox anymore. I don't think they're going to get rid of it by any means. We might even see the price go up again. But there will be some growth, but to your point, it's going to be slow. Obviously, Black Ops 6 spurred on the growth that we just saw in this financial call. And to the other point that you just made, we are finally starting to get to the magical every game a quarter dream that Matt Booty and both Phil Spencer have talked about. Now we can see this roadmap of consistent games. I mean, hell, we just talked about Avowed and South of Midnight and Doom. Those all come out the first half of this year. We know Outer Worlds 2 is coming second half. Mag, you keep saying Fable's getting delayed. Damn it, I drafted it, so it needs to come out this year. But the point is, Ninja Gaiden 4 is coming out, but there's games is the point that they're going to start to consistently have as the rest of 2025 going into 2026, which people that are subscribed to Game Pass are probably going to stay subscribed. And then you have a Call of Duty type game that can get more people, to enter the service. So I'm a Game Pass subscriber, and I will say this for the record again. Yes, I may have gotten some Game Pass codes, but my children, I purchased their Game Pass subs. So I put my money where my mouth is when I say I think it's a great value, because that's how they play the majority of their games. So I love the service. I don't want it to go away. I think it is finally hitting its stride, and it'll continue to grow, but it's not going to be anywhere near what they probably thought it would have been 5 years ago.
I got to follow up with this, because I think this probably was the major question for the Game Pass future. If they're putting out, they're theoretically going to have 6 to 8 games every year if they keep up this consistency. That's 6 to 8 games that they're not selling because people are going to a large portion of people are going to play them on Game Pass. Like, what are the pros and cons of the future of Xbox if people can save a few $100s a year by playing them on Game Pass instead of buying them outright?
Yeah, see, that's the big balance that they have to figure out, because obviously the whole point was if you had, I don't know, I'm just pulling a number, 60 million people consistently subscribed in the Game Pass, then this wouldn't matter, because you got that consistent revenue stream coming in that's covering that return on investment. But if it's still hovering around this 30 to 40 million, then is that enough? But which is, again, probably why you're now putting it on PlayStation, you're putting games on Switch. So these are people that are buying the game at full price to be able to play this, along with people that have stayed in the Xbox ecosystem. Some will subscribe to Game Pass, and even inside the Xbox ecosystem, you have people that are still going to buy it for $70 a pop. So look, again, way smarter than me. I don't know. That's Amy Hood's job to figure all that out, I guess. But I mean, we'll see how it is. But clearly, I'll say this, if I thought they were going to get rid of Game Pass, last year would have been the year to start winding it down. Oh, and if anything, it seems like they're doubling down on it. Yeah, they raised the price, but even with this Dev Direct, what was the first thing that you saw? It's all in Game Pass. So clearly I guess they think they can figure out a balance here with this multi-platform strategy to be able to properly finance all these games and, get that return on investment.
Yeah. Well, Mag, there's Paris makes a good point. He's stepping toward this point, but didn't go all the way through to it. That I love that he said that Game Pass isn't their only driver, where I thought maybe it was. But then I thought, oh, yeah, well, Paris is talking. He's talking about they're going to sell their games on other platforms. Plus, they have Game Pass, and consoles like their small market. Game Pass and multi-platform is their big market. So, Meg, what is your perception of PlayStation selling 64 or 70% of their games on PlayStation and the rest are small sales and Game Pass? Does that look like a healthy result for Xbox?
Well, yeah. And you don't think that is a driver? Moving forward, when they see that the majority of their sales of the games outside of the subscription service are on the PlayStation, that is going to continue to encourage them to move things over and faster. At least try to accelerate the program. And if you look at, Call of Duty was always Call of Duty. That's always going to be there for everybody on. It's out there. But you look at those numbers, it's pretty impossible to ignore. The big one that's going to be very interesting is going to be Forza Horizon. Now, it's not going to stop their plans. Let's say if Forza Horizon 5 doesn't sell well, it's not like they're going to stop. Stop, everybody, stop. We're not going to bring them over because they're not doing well. They're going to continue to do that, but it's going to encourage them to do it more and more day and date. Is that what you're going to see? Now, you look at the games that have already come out now, or the ones that are going to PlayStation have been slightly delayed. Like South of Midnight doesn't even have a release date for the PS5. You know what I mean? Because those games were already well in development before any of the Project Latitude started to have any serious discussions. Now you're going to see that when the games are being co-developed for the PS5, for the Xbox, and sometimes for the Switch 2. Not all games are going to the Switch 2, but some of them are going there. They're being co-developed. That's when you're going to start seeing day and date. And then that's when you're going to start to see the fruits of those labors, at least from Microsoft point of view, Microsoft Gaming. Spittin' 13, I got this from Xbox, by the way. Yes, okay. It's an anniversary jersey. Sorry, he was asking me about it.
Nice.
Anyways, no, that wasn't an ADHD moment. I just thought I'd get it up before I forget. The thing is that you look at those numbers, 60%, 80, what was it, 83%? Or was it 84%? I can't remember which one. One of those two numbers was the number of Call of Duty sales that were on PlayStation. It
was 64, I think it was. Yeah.
Well, no, that low? I thought it was 80-something.
No,
I think Call of Duty specifically.
I think, it was just for Black Ops 6, but I'm sure.
Okay, my bad. I'm off by 20%.
You're right, because we've seen 80% across other games, like other multi-platforms.
Okay, I swear I thought it was, I had the 80-something in my head. But anyway, the point is Forza Horizon 5, I think it's going to do very well. I think it's going to do very well over there. But the thing is, there's something else that someone mentioned in the chat here I wanted to sort of address. Is I know you mentioned, and this is why I don't think you're going to get as much engagement beyond what's already there in Game Pass. You will have maybe a little bit of growth, incremental growth. I can't see exponential growth. And the reason why, and I think it was Preston in the chat mentioned it, and it's funny because I thought of it, and the minute I thought of it, I looked down and he said the exact same thing. If Xbox theoretically, after this year, continues to release in a regular steady cadence of 6 to 8 games per year, let's just say, I don't care what kind of a consumer you are, you're not buying all 6 to 8 of those games. And I think because as a result of that, it's not like an automatic, oh, here you go, I'm going to buy this one, I'm going to buy this one, I'm going to buy this one. It doesn't work like that because you also have to factor in third party. You have to factor in funds, your financial situation, because the games are not cheap. And then the other thing is you have to also factor in first party stuff. Like, let's say if you're on PlayStation, okay, you got first party games. Sony's known for having, let's say, a couple of timed exclusives, or at least third-party exclusives that they work deals out, like your Stellar Blades and your Final Fantasies and whatnot. Then they got their first-party stuff. Then you've got third-party stuff, and now you got Xbox stuff, right? There's nothing
and you have to factor in the genre or type of game, which people are like, I don't usually play that stuff. No thanks.
Right. So now when you think about that, and now you add on, let's say a PlayStation player has PS Plus because they like to play online with their friends and this and that. So you're paying for that. Are you going to go to another ecosystem and then subscribe to another one just to save a couple dollars on that to be able to access games that you may not even get to? So I think as a result of that, you're going to continue to have the player base that you have now from the Xbox camp. You're still going to have that 30 to 40 million. You may eventually get to 50 million, maybe. But because of what I had just laid out in front of you, there's only so much time, so much money, and so many resources that you have to be able to consume all of this. And as a result of that, I think that is why the playing, the player field, right, is just sort of spread out a little bit too far. And as a result, people are going to have to piecemeal it.
But we've never seen the real realization of Game Pass the way it was supposed to be, because with Outer Worlds, Gears E-Day, Fable, Doom, Dark Ages, Avowed, like games like this, like there's a lot of games there where people are like, I want to play a lot of those. And so we don't know what the future looks like if people are like, because Paris is so famous for saying Game Pass is the greatest value in gaming. I said what I said, right? He's got that gif every time. But, Paris, you talk about that, but we're about to see like an irresistible allure to Game Pass. And this brings up the next concerned question I'll ask you. What are the potential pitfalls of Xbox losing the console war and putting their games on other platforms? Like, what are the negatives outright that you can see if you kind of look into the near future?
I think the obvious one is them exiting the hardware business, which is probably been the biggest concern for a lot of people, that they're going to stop making Xbox consoles. And now, they no longer factor in pricing and innovation in the hardware space for consoles. Now PlayStation gets to dictate, obviously, along with Nintendo to a lesser degree. So I think that's a major concern, that if them being multi-platform and they're not giving us a reason now to want to go buy Xbox hardware, that they just completely exit out the market. But I'll stick on that point for 1 second before I say the other concern. The other thing, and again, I'm taking people at their word when I say this, because even though Phil Spencer has said this multiple times, Sarah Bond has said it, people still have doubt that they're even going to make another console coming up. Let's just assume they do. Let's assume they do the handheld, right? By the time we get to the end of the next generation, we're what, about 2034 up in there somewhere?
Yep.
Who the hell knows what gaming is going to look like at that point? Let's put it this way. The people that are making the leadership decisions right now will no longer be in those positions. Phil Spencer's retired. Satya's probably retired. Herman Holtz, people over at PlayStation are probably retired. They're out of the industry. So it's going to be a whole nother generation of people making these financial decisions and where gaming is going to go. So I try to not worry about what's going to happen past the next generation versus just looking at what the next generation is going to be. And Xbox is telling us, we're giving you hardware. Phil Spencer is saying we're going to do something innovative enough that even though it's an option, you're going to willingly want to buy our hardware. Let's see what that looks like. But back to the concerns again, I mean, I just worry that the multi-platform strategy is Xbox completely losing their identity. Like, essentially, yeah, you hear that a lot. I've said it. I know a lot of other people said it. I'm pretty sure Destin asked Phil that directly. But that would be my main concern. I'll say it for the 1,000th time. Playing Halo on PlayStation will be weird. It's not something that excites me, right? But it's going to happen. Yeah, it's going to happen though. And then once it does happen, people will get used to it and you'll move on. But that initial shock of seeing that is going to be extremely weird to me. So that would be the other concern. Like, is Xbox even a thing? Is Xbox essentially just Sega? Is it Ubisoft or EA? It is just a big third-party publisher at that point. And Xbox isn't doing things that separates them from what PlayStation does or from what Nintendo does. They're just games that you play on a console at that point versus quick resume that we get, right? Obviously the Game Pass as a service, other things that Xbox does that their competition doesn't, which I don't want them to lose sight of that. But if they stop making hardware, then, again, they're just Sega at that point.
Yeah. The other concern you brought up is Phil said, we're working on the next generation console. And then Sarah Bond said a year ago, it's the most technological leap ever. And then Phil turned around and said again, we're working on the handheld to Ryan McCaffrey at the event, right? Mm-hmm. So you're like, okay, I mean, they're definitely making a console, but then you look back and we've talked to Phil in person, right? And he's such a nice guy and like, why would he lie? But we've seen him back out on things several times. And I know people can get really toxic about it, right, Mac? And
I don't think that's him. I make jokes and whatever else, but like not all of that is like, it's not like I don't think he's purposely going out there going, I'm going to lie to these bastards and then say this that, and the other. Yeah. And then all of a sudden he says something and then he goes, like he's not doing that. Yeah, got your ass.
But
like, he's not doing that. Like,
I got to add this in real quick.
Like
ahead, when he said it's just 4 games, it's not a signal. We've said that a million times on the show. Like,
yeah.
I know he said that because he knew where they were, but things changed drastically in like 2 months after, right, Paris? Like you can probably figure that he did that business update in January, February 2024, and then I think just a couple of months later, things from the top down and the bottom falling out were like happening, and he's like, I'm gonna eventually have to go on camera and say, we've got more games coming, and I can't tell you when Starfield is, right?
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to last year, if you think about it, they do that business update and you can really dissect it now and see, well, they knew this was all going to happen. And, he's very selective in his words about what he was talking about. And again, this is me guessing. No one said anything to me, but it almost seems like the success that Sea of Thieves potentially had on PlayStation really, all right, full speed ahead. They probably had contingencies in place. All right, we're going full speed ahead. And he waited until after that 9.5, 10 out of 10 June showcase to then basically say it again in a very positive way, exciting way, where it was like, no, if you actually listen to what he said, he just told you everything's coming. And then since that point, he has pretty much said in different forms that everything's going to go in some form, like unless it's already shipped, because I think there's a lot of confusion with what he said to Destin. All he was really saying to Destin was things that have already shipped, we're not necessarily going to put everything on another platform. Redfall's not going to PlayStation, as an example, right?
Yeah.
The Switch, like you talked about, Mag, not everything's going to go to the Switch 2, because from a technical hardware standpoint, not everything can be playable on the Switch 2. But anything they can put on a Switch 2 moving forward will be there.
Yeah.
All these new games that are coming out will be on PlayStation. Everyone should have that expectation moving forward. And yeah, it accelerated a lot. So it's like when I talked to him, I kind of just quickly ran down the list of all the things that he said in the past year. And I'm like, you've clearly learned a lot from the business update. Yeah, pretty much, and he laughed. But clearly you learned a lot, because look at where we are now a year later compared to that business update. So, it's about making money, man. I mean, we don't have to like it, but for them, they just spent $80-90 billion and they're trying to get that ROI.
Yeah, and I think the Xbox fans, I think you're going to see some exclusions to the rule, like like Hellblade 2 is supposed to eventually make its way to PlayStation. One of the exclusions to the rule, I don't like using that word when I talk about what was exclusive, was that not all Xbox game studios and their partners have a PS5 dev kit right now, or maybe they just got one. And like Mag said a little bit ago, some studios were already kind of like full speed ahead, getting the PC and Xbox port ready, so they're not ready to do a PlayStation port. And when you said Destin got that answer out of him where it wasn't like not everything, because there might be some obstacles in the way or time crunch differences, and I just can't see a future where Phil's like, let's hold Fable, like let's make Fable an exclusive and see what it does to hardware sales, because I think that the Xbox console loses them so much money over time that that's a reason why they pared back in Europe. There's like no presence really across overseas. So I don't know. Let me grab a couple supers.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, go ahead, because like I said, you got to say it now because you probably won't get it the same way.
I was just going to give both of you credit, because again, I listened to the show, and both of you have talked about this over the past few weeks about them losing money on these consoles, and this generation of consoles is unprecedented in that the price never dropped. If anything, it's gone up. So they're not making money on these things. So if you're not making money on it, you've gone to the strategy. Of course, like you're saying, in Europe, they're paring back. And again, if you listen to what he says, he told you at GDC last year, it is getting harder and harder to subsidize his hardware. So I am not expecting a cheap console the next generation. It is going to be expensive.
What's your prediction for the next console price? And we're going to get into that as well.
I'd say at a minimum $700, but probably even more than that. And I think what they'll be able to get away with is, if they are going to allow third parties to make certified Xbox hardware, then you'll see various price ranges. Right. So you'll see some that's lower performance, cheaper price, some that's essentially a high-end PC at a way higher price, and then you get to choose. But then what Microsoft makes is would be in the middle, as this is just the reference model for what any third party would do as far as whatever their next console is going to be. And then obviously this handheld thing, I don't think that's cheap either.
I don't either.
Not a chance in hell.
Yeah. So we'll see.
Yeah,
the ROG Ally and the Steam Deck have paved the way for the handheld. And the other thing is, and I've said this before, is that Apple has laid the groundwork for not losing money on hardware. And as a result, Sony and Microsoft both looked at it and they're like, well, why the hell can they do it? You know what I mean? And they're making billions of dollars. Look, no one seems to be complaining about Apple. But the thing is, as well, I'm not an Apple user, but from the people who do use it, they swear by this.
They love it.
Incredible product. Incredible hardware, this and that, whatever. They're happy to pay it. So as long as they're bringing a quality hardware and quality and of course technology is there, then people will pay for it. So that's what it boils down to. I want to say one thing before you jump into those super chats about the Phil Spencer thing before we move on.
Oh, yeah.
Is the Phil Spencer thing. Let me tell you something, for anybody who doesn't really fully get it. Being a front man, and I'm not defending this at all, okay? I'm not, because I've listened to some other people, some other YouTubers. I am a front man. But like, the thing is, it sucks sometimes being that front man. It sucks to be that face sometimes, because sometimes you have to, first of all, you're very limited at what you can say. So you basically have to create a word salad every single day before you step in front of a camera, a microphone, in front of anybody. You have to be careful what you say, what you're allowed to say, how you say it, whatever. So already that's a difficult proposition. Now you have to add on to the fact that you have other people calling the shots. Because Xbox is not calling the shots. Microsoft is calling the shots now. And they have been for quite a while. And as a result of that, they're like, okay, well, now we're doing this. Now we're doing that. Now we're doing this. Now we're doing that. And they have to comply. So now when you have all these changes go through, and some of them are tests, they're internal and otherwise, and they do this, it is very, very difficult to keep pivoting. You know what I mean? You have to keep pivoting over and over and over. And everybody keeps calling you a liar over and over. And I'm like, if they
don't you think
only
that
knew.
Phil wishes one time you could say, this wasn't my idea. This came from Satya, but he can't say that.
We know where it came from. We know no, he can't say it. We know that's exactly where it came from in Amy Hood. When all that went down, when they're looking at the financials and they're looking at the trajectory of the future of this division of Microsoft. But the thing is that when you keep having to pivot because plans either change or accelerate, it's really tough to get in front of that camera and answer those questions again.
And now I'm the liar in the videos, right?
Right.
Because,
and
I said
you're the liar.
Exclusive forever or something.
And then Destin's a liar, and
Paris
Phil Spencer's a liar, and Paris is a beautiful liar, apparently, from everybody in the chat. Yeah, you got to throw that in. You know what I mean? So it's very difficult to be able to, when the plans keep on evolving the way and the speed in which they're doing that. It happens to me too. When I get an email, I'd be at work doing my thing and we're like, okay guys, here's the policies, this is what we're doing, this and that, whatever. All right, team, go. And then we do that. And then 3 days later, I get another one like, yeah, we're not doing that anymore. And then I'm like, oh my God. And then you got to go back out there and go, guys, listen, they're changing this. And then everybody else starts getting pissed off. And then we got to go through that. And then we got to, you know what I'm saying?
You got to buy donuts. It's a whole thing.
It's a ball busting situation working for large corporations that are trying to turn a giant ship on a dime when you cannot do that. It takes time. But when you keep doing things like that and you try to turn that Titanic really fast, well, that's not how it works, right? But I mean, and that's what we've been witnessing over the last 15 months.
Don't call the Xbox a Titanic, Meg.
I wasn't. I was just using it as an example of a giant ship. But you know what I'm
saying?
saying?
The console is. No.
I was gonna say a smokestack, but
I'll buy the next console. I'll buy the next Xbox. I'll buy the PS6. And I'm ticked that it's going to be $700, $800. I think it's going to be
dude.
But
ROG Allies are selling for $800 to up here in Canada to $1,300 for the bigger hard drive one.
Yeah,
like come on, man. And that's a handheld, and people are happy to pay it. I see them using it. And I'm like, that guy just bought a $1,300 handheld, and then they're crying about a $700, $800 console. Guys, this is what's happening. So, for customers, unfortunately, we're going to have to make discerning decisions as to what you're going to, you want. Maybe not everybody's going to be able to afford $2,000 right out the gate.
That's the beauty of it. Like, we're looking into a future, according to Sean Layden, Phil Spencer, Jason Schreier. Jason Schreier doesn't say anything unless he knows something, like the way that the future's moving from people he's talked to in the industry. But, all these are so expensive. There's so many options. But for the most part, that exclusivity is going to be less of a barrier moving forward in the future gaming. It's so funny when Paris is like, what's it going to look like in 2034? It's like, we don't know. It could be totally different by then.
We don't know.
And maybe in
you and I
2034, you don't even care. Like,
yeah.
But,
the thing is,
but that's the thing. And, we all have kids.
Yeah.
I'm going to speak for you, but you can disagree with me if you want. Our kids don't care. They literally don't care.
Yes.
They literally do not care.
Tell me what
the ones that care.
Let me ask you.
Yeah.
When you show your kids like the new bombastic open world action adventure AAA game, are they like, oh cool, or they're like, I'm good on Fortnite. I'm good.
Now hold on a second.
I'm good on Roblox too.
Yeah, Roblox.
That's the thing. That's what they're playing. They're playing Fortnite. They're playing Roblox. God, what does my son play? He plays something with his friends. It's an old Ubisoft game. And I'm like, really? But that's what they play. I can't even remember now. But the point is, they're not running out caring about, is it Xbox or PlayStation or Nintendo? They're caring about, where are my friends? let's go play, and like my youngest daughter, let's go have a fashion show in Fortnite. That's what they care about.
Now I'm going to push back on one thing.
Sorry,
I think it's also an age thing, because at one point, now I look at these kids, I look at my own kids, and they were friends or whatever else. My son has a PS5 because all his friends have a PS5, right? And, they wanted to be, to get, I mean, I know you can play Fortnite anywhere, but, there's also a perception thing with their friends. Oh, I want to be one of the cool kids, whatever. Yes, they're playing a lot of Roblox. Yes, they're playing a lot of Fortnite. However, my son is turning into a teenager this year, and I did notice something else that's happening. And I go by his room, and he's not always screaming in his headphones at full blast with his friends playing Fortnite. I see him quietly sitting there, and I'm like, "What are you doing, dude?" And I walk in the room. He's playing God of War, right? Which he never did before. And then all of a sudden, I'm like, "Oh." And then I also saw that he was dabbling into Days Gone. Now he's got PS Plus, right? So like the games are there. So he's been dabbling in it, and now he's diving into those games very quietly, playing by himself, instead of like his friends. So like, as they age, maybe their tastes change as well. So sure. Yes, we could look at that demographic of those kids, and absolutely that's $1 trillion industry on its own, between Fortnite and Roblox and all the other stuff that's going on, Minecraft and everything else. However, they're going to turn into us. So I think that as each child eventually comes into that next generation, I think maybe the accessibility may be different, but I think the type of game or whatever, I think will always have a home, because there will always be that, like, as people start to mature. Like, look at Grand Theft Auto, for crying out loud. Everybody's saying, oh, AAA games are dead. Well, the last couple of years, they haven't been doing well for one reason or another. At least Western ones haven't been doing well, right?
Yeah.
What do you think was going to happen when Grand Theft Auto 6 comes out? It's going to blow the doors off of everything. And then that conversation of AAA games are dead are going to be done. It's going to be instantly done when that game comes out, right? That conversation is going to die a horrible, writhing death in a ditch of AAA games are dead. Same thing with console sales. Console sales are dead. No one's buying consoles. Then all of a sudden Switch 2 comes out. They're going to sell 40 million right out the gate. Watch. I'm not saying out the gate. That's a little exaggerated. But I'm just saying they're going to sell a whole bunch.
We know.
Right? And it's going to boost the industry again. I think that these things all go in waves. And I think when we hit plateaus or tail ends of generations, I think people tend to rush to judgment of, you know what I mean? Oh, it's dead. It's over. It's gone.
I mean, that's the attitude of the general consensus on social media, that this game's going to fail, this game is dead, this console is dead, everything's bad, everything's over. And I'm like, what happened to I'm so excited about gaming? Nobody cares about, you can say, oh, I'm really enjoying this game. It's like, I don't care. I want to hear the most dramatic thing ever. But Boner Jams, thank you so much for the $5 super. Says, always great to see the God King of blowout backs, the performer of 217 hit ultra mega combo and Killer Instinct. Have a great week, boys. We appreciate you, Boner Jams. Check them out on Wednesdays, Under the Bus podcast on YouTube.
We still have to drop by that show one of these days.
We do. We do that. Eli Zapp, thank you for joining the channel membership. Join the channel membership if you want to support the channel. Gives you custom emojis and so much more. Early access to videos if you care about watching those in the evening instead of early in the morning. BT Maverick, thank you for the $20 super. Says PS5 Pro is definitely not a PC. You have to pay for cloud saves, multiplayer, next-gen upgrades, more expensive ecosystem, games that you can't buy on CD keys, no GeForce Now, no Game Pass, no Series X has the most of that, next-gen will. Oh, come on,
Maverick, for the love of Christ. I wasn't talking, you see, he fell for it again. I wasn't talking about like a one-to-one comparison. I was saying on a philosophical level of using it as a third-party machine, not all the stuff that you could do on the PC.
Yeah, you hook up a mouse to your PS5 Pro? Yeah, that you, bro. Yo, Donna Kizana, thank you for the 5. Says, NVIDIA GeForce Now is not letting in new subs. That is how well they are doing. Yeah? Says, definitely room for growth in PC space that have perceived value. Yeah, I mean, cloud could become, we said this on the show, like cloud could become so easily accessible and so seamless that people are like, I don't miss my console. I mean, that could be the 2030s.
Speaking on GeForce Now for just a second to kind of bring Xbox into this, xCloud, however you're saying it, is way behind what NVIDIA is doing on GeForce Now. It is like, even at CES, I got to get a demo of what GeForce Now is going to be like on the Steam Deck. And I mean, it's damn near seamless, really? To be able to play on GeForce Now. The fact that you can play in 4K, they're doing all the ray tracing, RTX, and HDR. it is just a better experience. And the fact that you can play PC Game Pass inside of GeForce now, when I do cloud stream, that I don't use xCloud. I just use that because it's better. And like I said, you're playing the games in 4K.
And it's less intensive on your battery because it's streaming the games and using all the...
Exactly. That was a big selling point for the Steam Deck. Yeah, it works really well.
You know, the thing is that the one thing that's always going to be a barrier, which they're going to have to figure out somewhere between now and 2034, as we're talking about here on the show, is they're going to have to figure out it's up to the individual that's going to move the cloud industry forward. Because when it comes down to the internet, what people are paying for, their providers, this and that, cell signal, where they're located, all that stuff, and that is what's holding it back. Because one guy can pay for the top of the line X, Y, and Z. Another guy practically has one step up from dial-up, no fault of his own. You know what I'm saying? And as a result of that, that's not going to represent the entire industry, right? And that's the problem. If they can solve that between now and 2034, then I'll buy into the cloud thing. But as it stands, if customers are given an option, you will not, like a tiered option, you will not be able to get it where it should be. And that sucks.
Tech grows exponentially, but the infrastructure is slower. But remember, some countries have better internet on average than even the U.S. So you have to look at it on a global scale. Some people are doing
Canada's
great.
internet is far superior to the U.S. We're faster by quite a bit.
In general.
remember the North. Yeah, no. In all seriousness,
our friends in the North. Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Make it simple. Thank you for the 2. Says, why are people so sure that PlayStation will release a PS7? I mean, what year would that be, Paris? PS7?
Did you guys say a PS7? Did
no.
someone say that? Well, they patented up to PS10, I think it was. Did you guys see that?
Yeah, and Make It Simple is referring to PlayStation fans that say, they'll always have a console. And
look at that.
I don't know.
Richard
Sean Layden says they've been preparing for a console's future since 2019. Paris, give me your thoughts on that. Like, when does PlayStation leave the market? Because they have said things like that.
You mean there's no more PlayStation? They're not making a console?
Yeah. I mean, do you think that's even a thing, or are they just going to keep making one until the earth falls apart?
Until it's no longer profitable. So, I mean, again, the one thing that we're talking about before, we're talking about attach rate to games. They're selling hardware. That is still a thing for them. So clearly they're going to make a PlayStation 6, and I wouldn't see a reason why they wouldn't make a PlayStation 7. So again, when you start doing the math on this, now we're talking like 2040 or something crazy like that. So we're a long ways away before I think they would get out of it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, not too far.
Yeah, I mean, when I don't say that often, but when you said what's the industry look like in 2030s, it can blow your mind. Like, these conversations might not even be relatable. It will the insider Broke Boy Lewis, thank you so much for the $2 super chat, says, what happened to the holiday hardware announcement? I think we covered that many times. Sarah Bond said they had a holiday hardware announcement. I think what they ended up doing, and Paris, maybe you can corroborate this, was they released a digital Series X at Showcase instead of in the holiday. I think maybe that's
it was the all digital. That was the announcement. Yeah, because the fact that we know that handheld's not coming anytime soon, I would imagine at this point that handheld is part of whatever next gen is. I don't think it'll be a part of this current gen. So yeah, that whatever she was alluding to was that all digital Series X.
Are they getting too late into the hardware scene of what year would you think they're going to have this Xbox handheld? Because I said hardware and said handheld. Are they getting too late into the handheld scene? Because some people are thinking, man, if they wait a few years or a couple of years, are they too late? Like, is it going to pass them by?
I don't think so. And I think they have an opportunity to do something that separates their handheld from the Steam Deck, from Lenovo Legion Go, Rogue Ally, and the rest, because those are PCs.
Mm-hmm.
I want an Xbox. If they make a handheld that is an Xbox, and when I say that, all my Xbox games play on it. Anything I have in my digital store, first party, third party, anything that's backwards compatible plays on that device. I'm buying it day one because that's desirable to me. That would be the innovative thing that they could do that separates it from any other handheld on the market. Obviously, this is what the Switch does to this day. The Nintendo Switch is a Nintendo console that you can take wherever you go. So if they make that handheld replicate that experience, it is everything an Xbox that sits under my television does, that handheld does. But to answer your question, I don't know, probably 2027, you would think at this point, right? Up in there somewhere. I mean, so. Obviously battery life, they got to worry about battery life, things like that, decent screen on it, all that. Price, again, don't hold your breath. Yeah. This is a 1984, Colt. Come on.
Can you imagine? That's like,
yeah.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Yeah, you made me think of some other stuff, but yeah, probably 2027.
Can I answer Zocker?
Of course, yeah. Good old Zocker.
Yes, 87. Yes. The Steam Deck is a PC. What are you talking about? It's a Linux device. It has a desktop. I can do whatever I want with it, just like I can a PC. How is it not a PC?
It's more console-like than any other device, but yeah.
You get my point, though. Yeah. I mean, we're talking semantics here. The point on it I'm trying to say is I want the next Xbox, the Xbox handheld, to be an Xbox and not have PC Game Pass on it or the Xbox app like you have on Lenovo or whatever, which you don't get all the games. That's my point. I want something that plays all my digital library is the point I'm making.
Yeah, and here's the thing that you have to remind people, that the Xbox handheld would have everything that the Steam Deck has for games, because it has PC games on it, but it has all of your console games. So
exactly, and that's what I'm saying. Yeah,
I've said that so many times. The new ROG Ally or whatever the new handhelds or the current ones will never have those. Like, there are some games that carry over, but the reality is there's a lot of games in the other generations that you just cannot buy. Well, I would say the majority of last generation's games or even 360 games are not available to buy on PC. Like, you'd be lucky if you had it digital. You probably don't. So it would be a no-brainer if it was as powerful as its competition. You could tell someone at a store, like, you can get this brand handheld, but this Xbox one has access to more games than all the other ones. And people are like, well, who cares? But I mean, if you've ever owned a digital library on Xbox, it's already a no-brainer. Mag, I'm glad you're back. Let me read this. 4XP, thank you so much for the $10 super chat. The sponsors, I put the link in the description, also put it in the chat. They said, could Xbox games, I'll have you answer this one, Mag. Sure. He says, could Xbox games coming to PlayStation be the Trojan horse? That Xbox games could cannibalize sales of PlayStation's own first-party games with similar release date launches?
No, I don't think so. I think that at that point, what they're going to do is when they have large... By the way, everybody, go to 4xpgaming.com, okay, just because I'm going to disagree with him right now. And I'm wearing his fancy hat, as you can see. But I got to tell you, by the way, some people in the chat are like, where the hell did Mag go? Listen, man, I worked out for an hour and a half before I came on the show, and I was drinking so much water, all right? By the time I came on the show, I was ready to explode, okay? So I can only hold it for so long. And I'm old.
Middle ages, all right?
Yeah, no, jeez, man. My name is Middle-Aged Game Guy, for crying out loud. Anyways, they're not going to do that. What they're going to do is, obviously they're in communication constantly. They talk about the release cadence of what Xbox plans on doing, this and that. And then PlayStation is going to work around those schedules and say, okay, well, you guys are releasing E-Day on whatever, November 16th. We'll make sure that, fill in the blank comes out October 1st or whatever. That also gives a 3-week, you know what I mean? They all plan it out. They all got it like a war, like the war tables where they got like the little pawns, and then the guy got the stick and he's like, well, my lord, we must put the troops over here by York, and they push it over there and they do this and that. They do the same thing with the game releases.
Excuse me, my liege. Excuse me. Yeah. We'll have an Xbox game trying to release next to a PlayStation first party title. What do we do, my liege?
Xbox will now have Prima Nocte.
Is that what's going to happen, Paris? Is everybody going to have to kind of communicate?
Dude.
Yeah, well, let's.
It's crazy.
You know what? I'm glad you brought this up, because another thing I want to poke at Mag about. So, like you mentioned, Gears of War E-Day, he just randomly threw out a November date. But to that fact, there's all these rumors. It's 2025. I personally don't believe it. I think it's 2026. It's a 20-year anniversary. Why would you do it in 2026? It makes a lot of sense. But anyways, to that point. Yeah, I mean, you would think if these things are going to, because I would imagine Gears, E-Day, Fable, all this stuff is probably day and date on PlayStation at this point. Why would you think any differently? So if it is, clearly the PlayStation has to see what Xbox is doing, because they're not going to want to cannibalize any of their, you wouldn't want to put Ghost of Yotai and Gears out on the same day. Let's put it like that, right? You'd want to space them out so that both games could have success. So yeah, you got to think we're entering this new world where I do think the two publishers will need to communicate on their releases.
Absolutely.
It being that Xbox has to step out of the way on some of their releases, because if you're putting out a big game like Fable and you're like, oh, we don't want to be in the way of Ghost of Yotai. Ghost of Yotai is also thinking, man, we don't want to be in the way of Fable. But it'll be different depending on smaller games. We'll have to make way for bigger games, right?
That's why they got to sit. That's why they got to sit at the table and discuss. And then they look at that. And now and I know as a fact because I've spoken to two different publishers, not the publishers, but people that work at the publishers are really, really upset because Rockstar has literally taken a stranglehold to the second half of the year, and a lot of people are like, "Come on, man! Like, we know you guys are the best, but can you at least give us something like before their earnings call? I think is in a couple of days, or maybe tomorrow, or the next day. I think the earnings call. But anyways, the point is that like, can you say something because you're holding the second half of the year hostage? These two companies are trying to sit down and organize the rest of their year. Like you said, Microsoft at one end of the table, Sony at the other end of the table. They're like, all right, what do you guys got? What's coming out this year? What are we doing? And they're like, okay, well, all right, I'm like I said, just for argument's sake. All right, Ghost of Yotai, October 1st. All right, good. That gives us 3 weeks before Call of Duty. Let's do that. When are you guys doing whatever, E-Day or Fable? Okay, November 16, let's do that. Let's move that over here. Let's move this over there. And let's move out of the way of Rockstar because they're going to do this. And then they organize it. Then they say, okay, what about 2026, 27, 28, and 29? What are we doing? And then they put tentative schedules up. The same thing. Hollywood does it. The music industry does it. And the video game industry is no different. So I know because the Hollywood guys, they have what they call the spider web. Like even some of the guys I know that work at Marvel, they have the spider web, and it was all the different phases with all the different dates. And then what they did is not only just for themselves, they didn't just say, all right, well, we're going to release Avengers Doomsday here, this and that. They also have to look at what the other companies are doing. What's Warner Brothers up to? Right? What's you know what I mean? What's Skydance doing? What's Lionsgate doing? What's Fox doing or whatever? Oh, Fox is now owned by Disney, but you know what I'm saying? It's just they have to do all that, and they have to organize that so that it's profitable for not just for them, it's profitable for the industry, because then that's when they get more investors in there, and that's the same thing. Like they're not going to cannibalize each other. Sorry for making that long answer even longer.
No, that's good. That's good. There are a lot of like different topics I wanted to cover. No way to smoothly segue into it, but I do want to talk about what the next Xbox traditional console looks like. I think all three of us here have been saying that it could be as early as 2026, but we think it's probably 2027. And Paris just said that, and I've kind of been leaning more toward that as more talk goes on. Paris, what does the next Xbox console look like? Because you asked Phil, like, what's going to get people to buy a console, and he said, well, I mean, tell us what he said if you remember. You haven't. I
mean, the one thing, well, he just talked about they're going to do something innovative with it. Innovation is going to be the thing to separate it from their competition to get you to still want to buy it. I said straight up, and when I was running down all the stuff that he's talked about in the last year, I talked about open platforms, and I know Destin, I think even straight up asked him about Steam, and he laughed. But it does seem like this next console, whether it's this PC console hybrid or whatever, is going to be an open platform. So when because I even was talking about SteamOS with him, and he seemed to be a pretty big fan of what Valve has done with SteamOS, and the fact that maybe it delivers the Xbox experience on one layer. You press the button, you're in the Xbox experience, but you have the option to flip to a desktop mode. And if I want to install Steam, I can. If I want to install the Epic Store, and essentially any third-party digital store.
Let me stop you right there, because isn't that going to be a major problem? I love the idea. And like Zocker is like big into PC, like just having the idea of having no restrictions because this thing is a PC. Aren't there potential problems with having a actual desktop Windows PC in the background where you bought this product and it's like under a 2-year warranty or a 1-year warranty, and you could download whatever the heck you want onto it? Like, are they going to just have to say?
Think of it this way. And I work in cybersecurity, so I'm all, that's like my immediate thought is compromise, getting hacked or whatever, to crazy mods or whatever. Essentially, I know it's Linux, but this is what Valve is doing with SteamOS. I mean, I can install whatever I want on it, right? So
Linux has tons of stuff on it. or everything.
Here's my fascinating thing, and I didn't get a chance to talk to him at CES because I got sick at CES and I wanted to leaving early, but Jason Ronald, he was there at CES. He did briefly talk at Lenovo about this Xbox, melding Xbox with Windows, and that we're going to find out more about that later this year. That's what I'm excited to see. What does that look like? Is this essentially a forked version of Windows that is standalone? Is this any version of Windows and they're just adding this in and now I can flip to an Xbox experience versus a Windows experience? How is that going to work? Is it, like, again, virtual environment, Hyper-V, like what are they doing to protect the Xbox experience so that, to your point, it isn't being hacked? You don't have to worry about people installing mods or cheats or whatever the case into an Xbox game. So there's still a lot of questions to answer on that, but it's crystal clear that's where they're headed with it. And that seems to be the thing that they're going to do, to say, we're going to give you more freedom with our box to do what you want as a customer. And the thing that's going to, because the other thing I hear a lot is, well, if there's Steam on there, why would they allow Steam or the Epic Store? Then everyone's going to buy their games on Steam or the Epic Store. Maybe. Yeah. You're still buying an Xbox game. Sure, Steam gets their cut now, but you're still buying it. And the Xbox Digital Store, Xbox Play Anywhere, is the thing. I honestly think they don't talk about it enough, personally.
It's amazing. They put so many games in there and they don't even talk about it. Like Guardians of the
you
Galaxy,
buy it
I'm like,
once.
I have the PC version, my progress, my achievements.
Yes.
Oh, it is so, it's the coolest thing.
And think about this. Even, forget Game Pass and all that for a second, but just say I buy a game in the Xbox Digital Store. I buy one time. I can play it on the console. I can play it on PC. I can, now that games you own, you can cloud stream. There's going to be obviously these other handheld, the Rogue Ally, stuff like that. I can now play these games on multiple devices, so I have device diversity with that. Whereas if I buy the game in Steam, I'd have to buy it again to go play it on an Xbox console. If I buy it in PlayStation or Nintendo, I'd have to buy it again to play it, obviously on an Xbox device. So it gives you that flexibility and an option to do that, which is great. And not everyone's going to do that. I'm going to be clear on that. Because again, if I only own a PlayStation, well, then I guess I'm buying all the games on PlayStation. But one thing I noticed with Indiana Jones, and I would assume they're going to do this on all their games moving forward, is even on Steam, I can log into the Xbox experience. All my progress goes back and forth between Steam and Xbox.
Oh, Indiana Jones does that on the Steam version?
Yeah. So
that's
I can
pretty, that's a new thing.
Yeah. So like when I was doing review, I was playing on Steam, and then I would be able to pull my progress over to the Series X and pick up right where I left off. And all my achievements, everything would go back and forth. So Phil kind of alluded towards not every platform is going to allow them to do everything that the Xbox experience can do. But I would think at a minimum, and we'll find out here with Forza Horizon, but I would imagine even PlayStation and Switch 2, you'll at least be able to pull your progress back and forth if you own it.
That would be crazy. To buy Forza Horizon 5, and I've unlocked every car that on the base game. And Meg, let me ask you.
I just saw your super chat.
I know, I did too. I laughed while you were talking. We got Gaz leaving a member chat, and here he goes. Paris is the reason Xbox is third party. Kumbaya. Meg, let me ask you about this, because Paris was talking about the having these other storefronts. Yes. What if this console is not a Windows device? Like, you don't have a desktop. What if it just has this Xbox Dash and a Steam Dash on it? And then what if the industry in the background is like, we're just going to have our own launchers on devices because handhelds are getting popular? Because I can't really see this next generation console. And you've thought a lot about the next generation hybrid PC console, right, Mag? Yeah. I can't imagine going and there's a desktop with your icons and your Word documents. So no. What do you think it could look like? And you've kind of dug into this.
Yeah,
What's
we
that
did.
console have in it?
Well, I did speak to someone at Microsoft that said that they were working on talking about. They said I could talk about it briefly about the buy anywhere situation. Which Play Anywhere was how it started. Now it's access anywhere, just like what Paris was beginning to talk about there. And then they said that they were working on that, where eventually what's going to happen was some people are arguing about it, saying that, like, well, the different launchers now are looking at that situation and saying, well, now it's going to be a race to the bottom of who can like discount the game the fastest so that you buy it on their store. But it's the same. Like what he told me, I wasn't really grasping the concept when he was telling me about this, and I said, okay, give me another example, something that I could work with. And he says, well, for example, if you buy a movie on YouTube, like a digital download on YouTube, you can watch it in the Apple Store, right? It's the same idea. You'll be able to use it across different devices, and that was something that they're toying with. I don't know if that's going to happen. The Jason Ronald thing, I mean, we did hear about that there was going to be an under the TV desk, like an actual console, and then of course a handheld. Now there's people talking about, oh, it's just going to be a handheld, this and that. I have no solid evidence of any of that, nor have I been told anything beyond what I was told initially about that. I think it's still going to be a fairly traditional console. I think that the handheld will be the console that will grant you more accessibility. I think that's the kind of thing that you'll be able to access your game, obviously your Xbox ecosystem, plug it into a PC and be able to do what you do with the Steam Deck. Mm-hmm. I think that is the route that they're going to go with the handheld. However, my gut feeling, and this is only a gut feeling, folks, I have no insider knowledge on this. Okay, the people I talk to haven't given me a whole lot of information on the hardware side of things. My gut tells me that the actual console itself is going to be a very traditional console that you'll be able to access, obviously, your digital library, your Game Pass, whatever else. And I don't think there's going to be any serious integration with, like, let's say Steam or your desktop or anything like that. That's just my gut feeling. We'll see what happens. Listen, we'll just put this as a gentleman's bet. Between the three of us, and we'll see where this actually goes. But like I said, I have no knowledge of it. And watch somebody reach out to me at like 2 a.m. saying, yeah, I listened to the show, by the way, X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, yeah, thanks for telling me now.
I personally think if they were to just do a traditional console, if they would just replicate the Series X again, but it's more powerful, no one's buying it.
I agree.
I don't think anybody's buying it. It has to do something that is so unique that I would want to own it.
Like what?
Why am I buying it at that point? I would just play on PC or I'd buy a PlayStation.
Fair.
Like what can they offer in the near future?
That was going to be my question, Paris. What was going if they're not going to do that?
Yeah, invent it, Paris. Hurry up.
Well, the other thing is you're going to be in danger of running the price up even higher if you're going into an arms race with PlayStation for power. Right? And if you go into that arms race, all of a sudden $750, $800, $850, who knows where it's going to end. And I think as a result of that, what do you do? Now, when Sarah Bond talked about technologically advanced, she did not say power.
Yeah, she said technical leap or something like that.
Technical leap. So it'll be some kind of an innovation, but I don't know what it is. I mean, I think it's
AI doing the heavy lifting.
Oh, sure. Yeah, that's where everything's moving anyway.
And I think AI will help them sell you a really great PC at $700 or $800, and then Xbox in their position can actually stop losing money. I don't know much at all about economics, but knowing that Xbox has sold so few Series S and X consoles, 30 million, right? They haven't traversed into the profit margin zone because it's taken them this long to sell so few consoles. And so if they can perform this next generation console to where it doesn't lose money, Phil can do like he said a few years ago. Oh, we'll always sell, 20, 30 million consoles or 50 million consoles, and that's fine. Because it has been. They are not in a console plastic race against PlayStation.
He admitted as much. They're never going to out console PlayStation. He said as much. And you guys alluded to this on previous shows, and I think you just said it again, Colt. There's probably always going to be that hardcore audience of 20 to 30 million that will buy Xbox hardware. Yeah. But I also think it's going to be pricey. I think we talked about it already. $700-800. I think. Yeah. I don't think they're subsidized, because Satya even just said it in a financial call. They're trying to lower those margins. They're not. I think the days of a $500 or a $399 console from Xbox are gone. I don't think that happens after this generation.
Do you
think
guys
that maybe
go ahead. Go ahead, Meg.
I was going to say, do you think that maybe the next console will just be an accessibility box? Then,
very well could be. Very well could be.
You know what I mean? Like just an.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think that is a real possibility. My personal opinion, the thing that will sell the most for them in the next generation would be that handheld. versus the under
You think
under
so?
the TV, because, and I'll just go back to, again, this is your multi-platform now. And I'm just thinking of me as a consumer versus, hey, I get to do YouTube videos and podcasts and review stuff. If I'm just going out and buying something, I'd buy a PlayStation to sit under my television. I'd buy the handheld for convenience. That would be me. I wouldn't buy an Xbox console to sit under my television unless it's just doing something completely out of the box that PlayStation isn't doing, because I can just simply go buy the games that I want to play on PlayStation.
Yeah.
Right? Unless I'm trying to take advantage of Game Pass, unless they're doing something great with services or something that makes me want to stay in their ecosystem. To me, the battle, and we might disagree on this, Matt, because I know you talked about this earlier, but to me, the battle is, what can I do to get you into my digital store?
Yes.
That's what I think the next thing is. So we'll see. I mean, we'll see. Again, they're talking, and I'll say this since I'm running my mouth. I also think start hinting at the stuff this year, June showcase or whatever. Start hinting at whatever your next generation of hardware is going to be. Not that you got to do a full reveal, but something similar to Project Scorpio. Just start talking about it. Give me an idea. Get feedback from your customers that maybe they start talking about, this is the future of Xbox, and we're like, I'll buy a PlayStation. Maybe then they can pivot. Maybe it's too late. I don't know. But I think start talking about it now, because we're literally going to speculate about this for another 2 years if they don't.
Yeah, and people always assume that Xbox is dead. No one cares about Xbox, but millions and millions of people are buying them knowing for a decade that you didn't need to buy an Xbox console. They've been telling you for over a decade that it's not a requirement. So if they started talking about the future of the next console, the reason why I say people always say Xbox is dead, no one cares, is that that's not true. People care. And if Xbox started teasing their next piece of hardware, and they started talking about it like it was, they said that project whatever, it would generate massive buzz in the industry and the community, and it would be a really good thing for them to start gauging. Like Paris said it so great, I couldn't have come up with it, that it could get people to kind of start talking about what it could be, and they could start navigating that water. Are we going in the right direction? The next thing I got to ask you guys about, Paris, I'm going to ask you about this idea of Xbox eliminating the Xbox console type game, which has been a little bit of a hurdle for them this generation, where their certification and their porting process takes at least 2 weeks longer than PlayStation, sometimes a month longer than PlayStation. And it's been a pain point for developers creating an Xbox version of a game with a smaller install base. And so I thought, my harebrained idea, with the little hair I have, was that why not just give Xbox console customers in the future the PC version of the game and just call it good? Oh, the version you're making for Steam, or you're making or for Epic, give them that. Give them that, and we'll have you integrate the achievements and the quick resume or whatever it is. Let's make the porting process as painless as possible. Sorry, I rambled there, but do you think that the future of Xbox is just to really make those games a PC version where they have access to change whatever settings they want and remove the barrier of that painful Xbox process? Or am I off base?
I don't think it's out of the question what you're proposing, but at the same time, if you're still, going back to what we were just talking about, if you're still providing a traditional console experience, it can't just simply be the PC version, because I do think you're opening yourself up to mods and hacks and other weird crap that could happen. It does need to be more of a closed environment, which would require that certification still. Yeah. But I do agree they need to speed up that process. However that looks on the back end, obviously I don't know, but that's clearly not something that you're not going to get in a Phil Spencer interview. That's not going to talk about. That's something where you get Jason Ronald on for an hour, and you just dive into a bunch of nerdy stuff and start talking about that and kind of understand what something like that would look like. And then, obviously someone from his team or whatever.
Then all the while PR would be like,
yeah. We're not answering that right now.
Yeah. You get the classic. Grandpa's Barbecue Game Cat, thanks for the $5. Says the cost of next generation console is going to increase by a lot. The amount of people only buying one console. Yeah, I mean, you can make a decision there. They're all going to be expensive. Even the Nintendo Switch is probably $400 to $500 out the gate. The new one.
easily.
Yeah, I'm thinking $399. Yeah.
Yeah.
$399. Oh, I was gonna go $4.99.
Yeah.
It's Nintendo. Because I think originally we're going to the Nintendo talk, but I think the original Switch was $350. I want to say. I think this one being a little more powerful. Obviously, it's super popular right now, but you still want it to be family friendly and affordable. $499. That $399.99 seems to be the cap on where you want to go, because once you see that 4 number, it starts looking expensive. So
that is true.
I mean,
it seems like it's double the size, though. So you have a bigger screen, a bigger battery.
Looks like a Steam Deck, actually.
Yeah.
So it looks very.
And then you look
similar.
and you look at the price. The cost of console hardware has gone up naturally anyway. And so you're kind of like, it's got to be 400. And then a lot of you who say, I think it's 500. You're probably not wrong. One of those is definitely the answer. I don't think it's 300. Nobody would say that. Danny Passion, thank you for the 2, says, as long as they have a great box, multiplat is fine. See, Danny Passion is one of those guys who like, when I turn on my games, I'm just playing them. Some of us, I do it sometimes, you share it out to social media. Hey, I'm playing this game. It's amazing. And then some people take that as, you don't get to play this. I do. But, that stuff's just going to dissolve away. I don't know. It's just funny hearing Jason Schreier and even Sean Layden, who works for Tencent, saying that it's kind of becoming obsolete to have exclusivity across the board.
However, I did watch that interview with him, and he did say something interesting. He said there still is the FOMO situation. And he actually said FOMO, which is funny. But he talked about the FOMO situation, and he's like, well, you still need something to entice you to buy that hardware. Right. And then to get you over there. So he did say that. I mean, like, in so few words, he's basically saying exclusivity still matters if you're trying to drive hardware, because otherwise, what's the point? You don't want to leave the choice entirely up to the consumer. You kind of have to govern. You kind of have to move consumers to where you want them to. And that's what salesmanship is all about. Right. You're convincing them where to go. Not them. You don't want to give them an option. You're giving them the illusion of an option. But what you're doing is like, hey, man, listen, you want to play this? It's right here. So you're driving the customers to that area. And that's where I think PlayStation, which they did reiterate, Sony did reiterate just not that long ago, that's saying that they will continue the focus will continue to be the console even into the next generation. So they kind of put their foot down on that. Now, live service games or whatever else, I mean, the ones that they didn't cancel, but the ones that like exist, like a Helldivers 2 or whatever, which were monstrously successful, they will continue to release that everywhere because that's lucrative, right? I could see a Helldivers 3 launching with the PS6 in like 3 years from now or something like that. I guarantee they're hard at work on it. Aren't
people already like, our discussion is really aimed at the 30 plus or sure. I don't know, the 30 plus year olds and on, right?
You could say the 30 to 60.
Yeah. Aren't we all like ingrained? Like we already decided long ago never to walk in anyone's shadows, as Whitney Houston said. We decided long ago what platform we were going to be on. And I always hear people say, well, on the periphery, like, I'm done with Xbox. I'm going to PlayStation. I'm like, you're really going to leave behind a few hundred or 1,000 games you bought? I don't.
I have well over 1,000 games on my Xbox. I have, I don't know, a couple of hundred on the PlayStation or whatever. But I mean, I enjoy, like, I go where I enjoy it, right?
Yeah.
I'm in a position now at almost 50 years old. I'm in a position where I can afford both. But there was a time where I could not. I had to buy just a PlayStation 2, or I had to buy just an Xbox 360 20 plus, 20 years ago, whatever it was, because I was in a different situation, not married yet, not kids yet. I was still trying to build up my life, this and that, whatever. So yeah, I didn't have all that money to throw around, right? As time progresses, I was able to do that. I was lucky enough to do that. And of course, I'm thankful every day that I'm in a position I could do that. But yeah. I'm just saying, not everybody's going to be in that position. So what's going to happen is, PlayStation will continue, apart from being like, the market leader, blah, 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 whatever, and being in the mindset of the consumer, the consumers, is that also you have to look at that they're going to push to get people to go over their next generation to say, hey, you want those Xbox games, but you want that Last of Us 3, it's right here, or whatever, the new God of War Egypt or this and that. They're gonna move you over there, and then they're gonna continue to do that. Xbox, they're gonna be making billions of dollars anyway, doing whatever they got to do.
I know sometimes we laugh, like there's the drama of the multi-platform approach, Paris, and then Meg and I will laugh like, Xbox brass is like, we're fine. We're doing great. We're seeing growth. We're making tons of money and people are just enjoying games. I got to ask you, Paris. I hear this a lot. Is Xbox going to be the new Sega? Are they going to become like Sega? We hear that a lot.
Yeah,
what
you hear that
on
one a lot, and I even alluded to that in a previous conversation we were just having. But in reality, no, because they're Microsoft, and they just spent $80-90 billion. They are now the number one publisher in the world. Sega was not in that position back in 99, 2000, 2001. They couldn't get EA on their platform, which is why they wind up giving up on hardware. Yeah. If you go back in the history of the Dreamcast, and there was a bunch of shenanigans that were going on at the time. But remember, because NFL 2K was out, I would play NFL 2K on my Dreamcast, but you could not play Madden on a Dreamcast because you couldn't have EA games on there.
I missed all this. What was the EA's problem with?
And I could be misspeaking, but if anyone Googles this, the whole story, I want to say PlayStation might have been involved in this a little bit, but essentially EA refused to put their games on Sega's platform. And that pretty much tanked them. Which the irony is, here we are in 2025 talking about this. It's the fact you did not have third-party support, which is why the hardware wasn't as successful. Whereas I could play all the EA games and I guess any other third party that wasn't on Dreamcast, you could play them on PlayStation. But I think anyone that had a Dreamcast back in those days, that was the more again, we're talking innovation. That was the more innovative hardware at the time versus the PlayStation. But no, I don't think they're going to become the new Sega, just for the simple fact that they are staying committed, at least in the next generation, to hardware, where Sega couldn't afford to do that. We see the roadmap of must-play games that's coming out. Like you talked about, Colt, we might see a scenario where they got 6-8 games a year coming out, and you probably want to play at least half of them versus what Sega was able to do at the time. So it took Sega a long time to get to the position that they're at now, just as a third-party publisher, let alone being our first.
They didn't have 30 studios when they folded the Dreamcast. Yeah, exactly.
So no, I mean, it's an easy comparison just because of the parallels of what we see is happening right now. But ultimately, no, I don't think realistically Xbox is just going to become Sega. So let's say even pretend they stop making hardware. Think about all the freaking games that you're still going to want to play. And you know they're still doing Game Pass, and you know they're putting these games on all these devices, the PC on down the line. Xbox would still be a major player in this gaming industry, regardless if they had hardware or not, just on software and services alone.
You're talking about a brand that most of their games they put out, you want to play. Like that's unusual right now. Ubisoft, I've loved Ubisoft forever. I still really, really like them, but they're, BioWare and EA and Ubisoft, are having, it's a tough time. Even Blizzard's having a tough time right now. This brings the next question that everybody always asks, the third-party support. This is a big concern that a lot of fans have. If Xbox goes multi-platform, what's going to happen to are devs just going to skip Xbox? Are we going to miss tons of games? Because we already missed so many. And they always say, what about Baldur's Gate and Black Myth Wukong, which I'm like, that's 2 games. There's like 1,000 games come out every year. What is your take on, oh no, what about third-party support on Xbox?
Couple things. So the biggest complaint I got from the Phil Spencer interview that we did was, you didn't ask him about Black Myth Wukong. You guys just gave him softball questions. You suck.
Of course.
And here's my response. I am not going to ask questions that he has already answered. If you go back to November of 2024, Phil Spencer was directly asked about Black Myth Wukong, and his response was, I know why it's not on the platform. I just can't tell you. So I am not going to waste my time and ask him that question again. We obviously know the issue with Baldur's Gate 3, Series S, the parity thing, split screen. They obviously made an exception. You got it on there. Now, I will say, maybe I should have dived a little more into, as far as moving forward with third-party games, is that a concern of yours? He's going to say no. Of course, you already know he's going to say no. But I think you guys have pretty much answered that question. No, here's why. And you guys have pretty much answered that question over the past few weeks. There's still going to be 20 to 30 million people that's going to buy Xbox hardware. That's 20 to 30 million customers that you would miss out on if you don't put your game on that platform.
I mean, Square would be talking to Phil if Xbox was like not worth developing.
Why do you think, you know what's so funny? I find it hilarious, again, because people, you're used to this too, Colt. People love to pull old clips of things that you say in the past, right? I am infamous for almost about a year ago saying, after I played Final Fantasy VII Rebirth, because I didn't play Remake and I hadn't played Final Fantasy VII in 25 years. I was like, wow, this game is amazing. Wow, this is fantastic. Said it on XCast. It is criminal that this is not on Xbox and PC. And oh my God, the outrage over me. Oh yeah, the outrage. How dare I say it was criminal that it wasn't on Xbox or PC? What did we just see today? Oh man, Square is really happy with the sales of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth on PC. Gee, absolutely. I wonder why. Because you brought it to more people to play. Because my argument always with third party is put it on everything. If you're third party, why is it exclusive to one platform? That's silly to me. Put it everywhere. So to answer the question again, I'm going around the world and back to say it, but yeah, they're still going to put third party games on Xbox next generation because you're going to have customers. You're going to have people that will spend the money to buy it. Why would you not do it? That wouldn't make sense.
Yeah. Sorry, Mag. These questions are so great for Paris because you and I've talked about this. It's really cool hearing it from him, right? I've got another one. I'll shoot another one out here. People are worried about. Let's see. Shoot, did I already forget what I was going to say? They were worried about the. Oh, okay. This is great. My Xbox console game library, right? What happens if Xbox becomes multi-platform and then the Xbox console starts fizzling out? What is Xbox's contingency plan, in your opinion or your perception, to people who own hundreds of games or 50 games or 1,000 games if the future in 2035 is we're done with Xbox console, we're good, we're not making any more? Like, what does the future look like? Because I own 1,000 games on Xbox.
Yeah. They will not. I don't think that they're going to change any of that. There's going to be an accessibility point somewhere. I don't know how it's going to be, but you will not lose your library in the future. I know I talked about it earlier where I kind of poo-pooed the idea of going back to the other games. However, I still own them. Right. And and they're still mine. I think there's a principle there where I'm saying, okay, listen, from the 360 all the way till now, I spent, or I bought like 1,000+ games or whatever. Yes, there's a point there. Even if you took them away from me, I think on principle, I'd be pretty upset and be like, hey, those still belong to me, regardless of the fact that, you no longer make hardware. I think at that point, that's where you're going to be able to just log in on whatever device, and you'll be able to access those games. That's not difficult. I mean, I know it sounds really stupid, and I'm just saying it's not difficult to do, but it is, but it's not. There'll still be an accessibility point on different hardware that you'll be able to do it. Like what I tell you last week and the week before, I said I bought this new monitor, right? Beautiful monitor, just before Christmas or whatever. And I can access Game Pass right on it. And I had, it just said right there, it said play Indiana Jones right here on your monitor. No, and it said right underneath, no console required, right? So you're going to be able to do that. You'll be able to log in just like you can with your Meta account, your Steam account, your Instagram, your TikTok, your you know what I mean, your Twitter X, whatever, your YouTube accounts. You'll be able to log in and be able to access it. And at that point, you will just need an accessibility point, whether it's a monitor, whether it's a smart TV, whether it's your tablet, your laptop, whatever.
Yeah.
And just your login and a password, and you'll be able to do that, and you'll be able to access your digital library. I think that's they've obviously thought of that. You know what I mean? They're not just willy-nilly just going, oh, well, we're just going to get rid of hardware and just, leave everything to waste and to hell with everybody and whatever they had. We're just going to move forward and soldier on with this. Yes, I know corporations can be evil, and generally they are, and I don't trust them. However, there is at some point there's still an accountability of people's purchases that they still have to respect, and so therefore I believe that they will continue to do that. And like I said, I don't know how this is going to end up because we don't know what the next 10 years is going to look like. Right? We don't know what's going to happen. I mean, we could be overrun by Elon Musk's robots in the next 5 years.
I know.
Who the hell
crazy Cybertrucks with teeth.
Dude, there's a guy that has a Cybertruck near me, and he's got it decked out with like that, like that granite spray. So it's like rough. Dude, it's wild, man, and it's colored black, and it's got like the little.
Oh, he's got like the rhino lining on it.
Yeah,
He rubs his arm by and he's like, oh gosh.
Oh, dude, it's like sandpaper. Like you could touch it, you
Peels
just
your
like
flesh off.
yeah. Anyways, like we don't know what's going to happen in 10 years, and we don't know how this. Just like we talked about the last 2 hours, we don't know where this is going to end up. However, I can absolutely tell you, you will still have accessibility to your digital purchases. There's no other way.
Jez Corden of Windows Central, and also, I guess he's on the Xbox 2 podcast. I fall asleep listening to that, but whatever. Those guys are great. We'll give them their flowers. No, Jez Corden said that basically Xbox Live would have to completely go away for you to lose games. But what's your take, Paris? What do you think the future looks like if Xbox out of the hardware business? How do they let you hold on to your purchases and still play them?
Yeah, a couple things, because I think Mag was pretty spot on with that. We don't know what the future is going to look like 10, 15 years from now. I would say in the short term, they've obviously committed to compatibility of your digital libraries going into this next generation. So I don't think there shouldn't be any concern the rest of this decade. Let's put it that way. Obviously, once we get into 2030s, who the hell knows? But you would imagine there would be some avenue that you'll still be able to access these digital libraries. And I even just saw in your chat, someone was like, they shut down the 360 online service.
I was about to say that, yeah.
But if you just couldn't buy them anymore. If you own it already, you can still access them. And that's what I think we're talking about. We're not talking about, oh, you'll be able for the rest of eternity to go back and buy an Xbox One game. But if you own that Xbox One game, there should be some way that you can still access that game and be able to play it. I think I don't have as much a concern that that's going to be a problem anytime soon.
Yeah,
in my opinion, but we'll obviously see. But because again, there's no promises with anything, and that's why I'll bring up once again. By the time we get into the 2030s, into the console generation after the next one, it is all new leadership. And we might have Emperor Elon at that point and all of it's gone. So who the frick knows? We won't know because there'll be different people in charge making those decisions, unfortunately. So that is the one risk that we'll always take with digital, in that they could cut that crap off at any time and we don't have control over it.
That's usually the small print that nobody reads.
Yeah.
Is that they have ownership of the product or whatever else. But I think just from a PR point of view, I think they just want to, maintain a rapport with the 20 to 30, maybe 35 million people that are still active in that community, right? Outside of this. So they're going to have to maintain that and just kind of, all right, we're going to go down here. I can't see them going so drastic. It'd be just like, you know what? New vision, say goodbye to everything you've purchased. I cannot see that. There's no way. I mean, like I said, I don't trust corporate. I don't even trust my corporation, for crying out loud. But you know what I mean? But still there is a line. There is a line and they will draw that line. So I wouldn't worry about it.
And you have to look at it this way. We're obviously talking Xbox and just the fact that, hardware could be a question mark at some point in the future. Really with digital, it's everything. It's PlayStation, it's Nintendo, It's freaking Steam. It's anything that's digital. If Valve packed up shop tomorrow and said, guess what? All your digital licenses, you're screwed. I don't care. Goodbye. You're done. You don't get to play those games anymore. You'd have to hack it all. Yeah, music, Spotify, all that. So it's a risk no matter what. Any kind of digital entertainment that you have, it's going to be a risk regardless.
It's such a convenience right now that we enjoy every day. And we're old, right? I had the Case Logic in my car. Do you ever have one of those, Paris? You flip it open, an accordion had all your CDs. It was like a prized possession in the early 90s. Right?
If you give me 2 minutes, I can literally go grab mine from the 90s. I still have it.
You should. I wish I still had mine. And I would throw it under my seat, and it would like that foam rubber would like get gouged, but like it was
almost
amazing.
Like get into like a 6-car pileup because I wanted to trade out like for Ice Cube's America's Most Wanted from the Beastie Boys CDs, and I'm rifling through, and all of a sudden I'm two lanes over.
I'm trying to drive, and I'm looking for the Chronic because you can see the big green leaf. I'm like trying to see it while I'm trying not to drive into some old lady. Those were the best days. Yeah.
Alfonso Mendoza, greatest. Sorry.
Speaking of that, this isn't gaming, but you just reminded me. So again, my case, I have like this big one, right? And
you have the one that's 4 per flip.
Yeah, I was in the Navy.
Yes.
Yeah, so I was in the Navy in the 90s, right? So I got to travel all over the world. I used to, whenever I'd meet a girl, I would write their phone number and their like mailing address, because again, this is before the internet was a big thing. If I was going to mail them a letter or I call them. So if you open up to this day, you open up the front of it, I have all these girls' phone numbers like from all over the world that I've met in there. It's hilarious.
It's like your Rolodex, bro.
Yeah. Yeah,
you should just
pretty much
call them and see who answers the phone now.
That might be scary these days. I don't think I want to do that. Might pick it up and find out.
Big. Let me get out my Rolodex. It's like a giant.
Are you my dad?
I was about to say that. I was going to be like, Dad, is that you? What? Nope. Click.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that to say that, like, I loved those CDs. Like, it was my life. But right now, I love having, like, it's on my phone. I get in the car, it connects to Spotify on the car system, and my music just keeps going.
Dude, the integration through my house, like I basically have set up my own smart house where I've got like the Alexa thing like attached to everything. I got cameras everywhere, whatever else, and I just walk around talking to my house. So the thing is that what's really cool, yeah, you bring everything with you. It follows you around. You get in the car, whatever you were listening to in the house literally just continues from in the car without even skipping a beat, literally, whatever, right? But the thing is, yes, you're absolutely, it's amazing, but like I said, there's an accountability there that they're just going to have to be able to say, listen, if we want to keep these guys paying, which is all they care about, then we're going to have to keep giving them access to their products. And that's all they care about at the end of the day. So I guarantee they've already figured out a way. You know, there's a documentary out there called The Fourth Wave. I watched it years ago, but it's very interesting, and it still holds prudent to this day, is that the technology that we have now is 20 years behind what they're already working on. Right. And then they slowly release it to us, because if they release the technology that they actually have, our brains would probably explode from the knowledge because we wouldn't even know what to do with it. Right. So they've already figured out what you, myself, and Paris have been talking about for the last 10 minutes. They've already got it all ironed out. They just need to implement it with the trajectory of the consumer and where their thirsts and wants are over the next 10 years. But they've already got it all worked out.
I'm going to say something that would probably upset the most purist of console fanboys or someone who really wants to fight exclusivity. Are you ready for this?
Uh-oh.
I would rather have what I have now with Xbox cranking out 6 to 8 games every year. And so far they've been amazing. They've been great. I would rather have that now with them going to PlayStation, fully multi-platform, than to be the Xbox 10 years ago that had 3 studios and I had Super Lucky's Tale and Recore. So yeah. I would absolutely rather have now with all of these games, even though they go to PlayStation, in a heartbeat. I am way more of a satisfied gamer in this scenario.
I completely agree with that. And again, old man take. When I was in high school and junior high and all that, we obviously couldn't afford to have all the systems, right? So what would we strategically do as friends? I got the NES. You got the Genesis. You get the Commodore 64. You got the ColecoVision. You get the Intel. Like, we would have all the different systems so that we would go to each other's house and play all the games. So I just want to be able to play the games. And it's always really been that way. And clearly, exclusivity is something that has been marketed to us. It has been told us that it's important. I get it. I understand that people are upset by it. But at the end of the day, man, it's just give me good ass games. I just want to play good games, really. You know, that's what the focus should be versus I have what you don't have, so I win. I just think that stuff is silly.
Yep. Oops. What have we been saying, Colt? What have we been saying for years, literally?
Yeah, we have. I've learned a lot of lessons along the way.
As a customer. Yep. Oh, yeah, of course we do. I mean, we evolve as we go, right? And but the thing, like, I started YouTube 5 years ago, and if you look at my first show up until now, it's funny to watch the evolution of how we feel and think and whatever else.
I know you hadn't even gone through puberty back then. It was amazing.
But you know what? We are, and this is what I keep trying to reiterate to everybody who listens to the shows and everything we do. We are customers. I know some people get emotionally involved in this and that, whatever. There's no problem with that. That's part of, being a fan of something, right? Like a sports team or whatever. I almost like destroyed my house watching the Buffalo Bills game last week, right? And I'm emotionally involved. But the thing is that still we're customers. And so we have to look at these things as customers, and they are working for us. We shouldn't have to work for them. They are working for our dollar. And as a result, their job is to take that money out of my pocket and put it into their pocket. But in order to do that, I still got to hold it and be like, there's got to be a reason why I'm handing you over this money. And that's something that we have to. So it doesn't matter where it goes, how it's done, or where you consume it. All we need to focus on is quality of software.
Yeah. I agree.
End the show. End the show. We can't top that. End the show.
I love it. Meg, tell everybody what content you're working on, where they can find you. We've got your channel in the description. Sell yourself. You sell out.
I am a sellout. Yeah, absolutely. 4xpgaming.com, ladies and gentlemen. Anyways, in all seriousness, you go to the Mag Show. You can find me there. Of course, I drop one or two videos a week, just a little bit of commentary. Every Wednesday night, I do the stream with my wife, which is growing in popularity quite a bit. It's called Till Death Do Us Part. And it's my wife and I streaming and screaming at each other while we play online games together. It's fantastic. So Till Death Do Us Part every Wednesday night. Of course, I drop a couple of videos. And then Friday nights, I have Mag and the Wolfman, where I play with my son. And him and I are playing, right now we're playing It Takes Two in anticipation of Split Fiction, which comes out in March. We're from the same developer, and it looks fantastic. So we're playing It Takes Two to its completion in honor of Split Fiction that drops in March. The other thing I wanted to talk about very, very, very briefly is that the reason why I'm doing all this with the family and stuff like that, I'm trying to promote something that a lot of people, in this digital age, they move away from being, connecting with their family and their family members and their children and their wives and their husbands and their this and their boyfriends and girlfriends. I'm trying to bring people together and trying to show people like, hey, you know what? This gaming thing could be, instead of us screaming online and fighting with each other and throwing insults and death threats and this and that, whatever, gaming should be something that brings us all together. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to show that, like, even as a family, my family specifically and my friends, but I stream with my family. The reason why is just to show a little bit of cohesiveness, so that we can do this all together in a positive way. And that's something that I've been promoting on my channel, and it's really been growing exponential. I'm really happy about it. I'm in less than 3.5 weeks.
You'll be 1,000 soon.
I'm almost at. Yeah. I'm at 948 subs now in the first 3.5 weeks. So it's really growing. I'm really happy about that. So anyways, that's all. So you can catch me there. And obviously you can catch me here every Monday night, 8 p.m. Eastern. Thank you, Paris, for stopping by, and you stayed for the whole damn show, man. It's been absolutely amazing.
Course. Yeah, it's great to talk to you. It's great time.
Let me read these couple of supers here, and then chat's been amazing. You guys have been really helpful. I'm gonna read these supers, and we'll go to Paris. Magnum Jokes says Xbox is dying. I'm just enjoying spending time with it before it drops dead. But Magnum's always giving us a good time in the chat. Machine XP, thank you for the 5, says console would be similar to Series X, compatible with the Microsoft PC Store, compatibility with Windows apps and software, but not full PC. Yeah, that's what we're thinking. But yeah, I mean, we'll dream for now until they start talking about it. Maybe Paris kind of lit a fire under somebody in a conference room and say, hey, let's be bold again. Will the Broke Boy, Lewis, thank you so much for the $2 super set. If PlayStation gave me a good Xbox controller layout, I'd play. I like the DualSense 5. I think it's awesome. But,
actually, it's one of my, next to the 360 is my favorite controller of all time.
Yeah, it's great.
I say my two favorite controllers of all time are the Xbox 360 and the DualSense 5. Fight me.
Yeah, they're awesome controllers.
To the death.
And they're pushing Xbox to put in haptics next gen. Paris, thank you so much. We'll get it. Paris, thank you so much. This has been so fun. I'm glad that you rode along with this format, and we covered a lot of stuff, and it was super, super great. Tell everybody where they can find you, because you're in several places, and they might get lost.
I know, I get lost myself. Before I say that, I do want to congratulate you specifically. I saw you hit 170.
Yeah.
On the channel, right? Wow. Yeah, congratulations, man. That's amazing. I mean, you've always worked hard, and I've gotten to know you a little bit better over the years. I mean, you're a great guy, and you do hard work. You do fantastic editing. Your videos, just everything you do, it is well deserved. And I remember you first started doing this, and you invited me on in the early days, and I appreciate that. It's been an honor to be able to come on, even though Gaz brought his bitter ass in here earlier. We'll
kill him.
Yeah, but you and Mag, dude, you guys are great. Like I said, I casually listen all the time when I can. So I've heard a lot of your insights over the past few weeks and months, and it's been great. But as far as I go, social media, Vicious696, wherever you want to go for that. And I'm on Gamertag Radio. This is the 20-year anniversary of Gamertag Radio. Celebrating that with Danny Pena. It's just been crazy because I'm not here without him. I listened back in 2000. Yeah, I was listening back in 2005, and we wound up becoming friends.
Logic.
Yeah, man, it's crazy. And then, I'm part of Kind of Funny as well. We had an XCast reunion on Friday. I miss
awesome.
doing that show. But it's been great working with them. We have a lot of fun doing that stuff. And I have my own personal YouTube channel. Don't ask me the URL. Someone put it in the chat earlier because I suck. Just search my name and you'll find it. But I'd started up a few years ago, kind of just let it go when I was doing Kind of Funny stuff. And I've just been messing around with it again here, probably in the last 6 months or so. I'll put the occasional review up there, unboxing, and I've been messing around with live streaming the past week or so. And, people checking that out. That's been a lot of fun. So I'll continue to do it. It's just a little fun thing to do, and we'll see where it goes. But again, I appreciate you having me on here. And again, it's been a lot of fun.
Thanks a lot, everybody. Thank you. What a great panel. What a great chat. We're going to get out of here. Thank you so much. Yodani said something. Hold on.
No, I'm saying Yodani I was saying thank you for getting all those links to the YouTube channels out there.
He's so fast. Thank you.
So fast, thank you. Man.
Yeah, thank you to Yodani Kizada and Happy Bomb for modding every single week. You guys are amazing.
Yeah, man. And look at that. You look at the chat. Paris says it. You look at that. You look down. The links are already there. Yeah. So amazing, amazing.
Yeah. I didn't announce the 4XP winners. I'll do that. Just take a second. They've already been contacted, but I just want to announce them publicly. Dark Nightmare won the Legendary Tub, and King Styles won the Ultra Nightmare Tub. Thank you guys so much. Check out 4XP. They're awesome. We appreciate them. They're going to be around the community too. So you'll see them on other cool podcasts. So thanks, everybody. I'm going to go back. Where's the control panel? I got to get out of here. We're starving. Yep. Thank you so much, Paris. I appreciate you. This is going to be a legendary one. I'm going to listen to this one around. So thanks, everybody. We'll see you. Hit the like button on the way out. Send a comment and all that stuff. You're awesome. We're out of here. We're shutting it off. We're going. Bye.